Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family beyond the binary, hello and welcome back to Open Division, brought to you by Monkey Bubble Reflash. My name is Warren Jungle God Hammond, joined on the mic again by my good friend Dividing. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic today, Jungle God. We are really getting down to it now. I believe we have whittled down our starting field of over 128 teams down to our final 12. And we are looking at two of our four teams in the winners semifinals matchups going on today. And they're competing for a chance to have a berth in the winners finals and guarantee themselves a top three spot.
Yeah, there's a lot riding on the line today between these two squads, Budget, AHU, and GeForce. Neither of them a stranger to competition. Of course, that's to be expected at these higher echelons of the tournament, these final few steps of the ladder towards that grand finals win. Now, Budget HU, true to their name, made up of a few members from Harrisburg University, a team that has been just blowing the roof off of collegiate Overwatch.
Yeah, you can take a look at my YouTube channel for the video that I posted a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Harrisburg have always been one of the best, if not the best, depending on who you ask, collegiate Overwatch team. I personally would place them in my top three overall. And from their main tank, Akawa, one of their DPS players, Tap, and a support player in Soames, they have three really solid players from Harrisburg that are going to be sort of making up the core of this roster, supplemented by some really solid EU talent and Blur, Brute, Disclosure, and some other awesome, really cool prospects like Hopeful on the DPS as well. It's going to be really interesting, Jolgat, because this is the number one seed in the entire bracket, yet this is the first time they're going to be on stream.
It is, though I wouldn't say it's the first time they're going to be tested yet. They were able to knock Best Buds version 2 down into the lower bracket, in addition to Boston's Finest relatively recently. Both of those squads very, very strong. So they've shown us they've got what it takes to make it through some of these higher level teams. Of course, that's to be expected being the number one seed. Now, on the other side of the equation, we do have GeForce. Again, no stranger to competition. The list of tournaments that this team has won is tremendous. I mean, we've got where did my notes go? Yeah,
Berry Community Blast, Latency, Questline,
Matters.
Natter Community Bash. These guys have played
Yeah,
every single amateur event that the community has offered them over the last 6 or so months. And more often than not, they have come out victorious thanks to a really interesting and unique style of Wrecking Ball gameplay, led, of course, by the Wrecking Ball prodigy Strider leading the way.
now, that means we know what GeForce is going to look like going into this, right? They're going to play Wrecking Ball, they're going to force the issue, and they're going to make it a pain for Budget HU no matter what they try to do. But the great thing about Budget HU is they are a very flexible squad. So I think we're going to see a lot of swaps coming out from Budget HU, at least early on in this matchup between these two squads, until they settle on what they think has the best chance of taking down these juggernauts in GeForce. So this is going to be quite an interesting matchup, right? We've got this hyper fixated squad on the Wrecking Ball composition versus this very flexible entity in Budget HU, and which one at the end of the day is going to end up on top, I think is really anybody's guess, because frankly, even though this is the number 1 and number 12 seed, this could really go either way very easily.
Yeah. It is going to be extremely difficult for both teams, which is why the map choice throughout this entire series is going to be extremely, extremely important. Do we have set up where we're going to be going first here? Do we have that screen set up? Yes. So we are going to Juggle God's home turf here, Lijiang Tower, which is going to be actually a really interesting map, because I think there is a huge argument to be made where there are sub maps on Lijiang where both the GeForce style of Wrecking Ball play and then Harrisburg's, very flexible, but I assume probably not going to be playing as much Wrecking Ball let's just do this from the lens of GeForce, because we know for sure what they're going to play, right? On maps like Gardens, it's extremely open. The Wrecking Ball is going to have a ton of room to swing around, pile, drive through, roll through, disrupt the members of Budget HU. But when you take a map like Control Center, then all of a sudden you've got a lot less room for the Wrecking Ball to swing around, and it's going to be a lot easier for maybe some CC-centric play characters on Budget HU to lock them down and take them out.
Right, and I think, the final map to mention, of course, is going to be Night Market. And to me, this is the one that's going to be the best sort of preview for the entire rest of the series. Because that map, it favors the Wrecking Ball compositions, but at the same time, it also, you can play just about whatever you want, right? And that means that we're gonna get to see some of these flexes come out from Budget HU. We're gonna see what their preferred method of tackling this Wrecking Ball composition is going to be. So that's where my mind is going to be. That's where my eyes are gonna be if we get there. But of course, first we're headed to Control Center.
Yeah, this is going to be, of course, Budget HU's best overall chance to lock down this disruption-based Wrecking Ball composition. Many have tried, very few have succeeded. We will see how Budget HU are going to stack up to this one. Of course, GeForce are going to be playing an interesting style of the Wrecking Ball composition with the Farm Mercy here, which means they've got to play a little bit slower, so Ultima will have to get set up around the side of the point and start chunking in that damage with that rocket barrage.
And there we see Ultima Web doing just that right outside at the coast. Budget HU has started to take a high ground position and approach. Dimensi, though, going over to that coastal side, seeing if they can start to put some pressure on that bar, potentially even the Wrecking Ball. They also were able to scout out Sombra's translocator, so that could cause some problems as well for Pummy. But we're going to see a lot of pressure being put on Pharah now, on Angelic. GeForce, though, coming away with first possession of the point. That's actually a bit unusual, considering Budget HU's composition is built to do just that.
Yeah, Budget HU are, I think, putting a lot of pressure on Dimensi here to try and get in the back, put pressure onto the more squishy members of GeForce, but it took them a while to get into position, and now Budget HU makes their approach.
Gonna be a slam coming in from Strider. That's gonna yield a kill onto Chef Big Dog. Without that, Baptiste in the fray, in the mix. It's going to be very, very hard for this Brawl composition to stay up, stay alive. But Noxious is going to be able to take anyhow out of Mech. So that's a boon for Budget HU. But regardless of that, they're still going to have to yield a little bit of space. But that's going to lead them to a couple of kills. They're going to be able to take control of this point. But already, just about 50% on the board for GeForce.
Yeah, not quite the start you wanted there for Budget HU. You probably wanted to use that big body of the Reinhardt and the D.Va and try and tiptoe back and forth onto the point, not let GeForce get control at all. Instead, they stay behind just a little bit too long, and as a result, GeForce have a solid lead to start, and that all-important EMP available for Pummy.
That's going to land onto 3 members, crucially. Crispy, that's going to mean no sound barrier for that barrage, but it's going to be negated anyway by the Immortality Field. Noxious, in the meantime, able to take Strider out of the equation. Valk has to be popped by Angelic, but I don't think there's any chance that Mercy's going to be able to get the res off. And so this fight, once again, goes to Budget HU.
But that was the 2 big ults there for GeForce. The EMP Barrage combo, that's kind of going to be their bread and butter ult combination in this kind of strategy. You could have thrown the Nano Boost in there too, but you didn't, which means Budget HU have a massive ult advantage in this next one.
That they do. They should be able to ride this ult advantage to a win, but 2 picks on the board now in favor. Make it 3 of GeForce. They are primed to come right back in this fight immediately after the point getting flipped over and crossing that 50% threshold. Budget HU will be in the lead in the capture percentage, but likely not for very long as soon as they're able to get these last few staggers.
Yeah, nicely done there from GeForce. Really going aggressive in a comp that tends to play a little bit slower a lot of time. They started slow at the start of this map and then really knew when to pick up the pace here. Strider getting the stagger kill on the Dimensi as well, who was probably hiding out in the back, is going to be huge for GeForce now, as Budget HU has to wait even longer to get their full team back, and that's going to let GeForce even up here on the overall percentage points. So now GeForce are in a solid position with the mines No longer the barrage, though. Pommy's going to need to get that EMP quickly.
The res will come in, so Ultimate Wep is back in the fight. They weren't able to stagger out that Mercy. In the meantime, a minefield has been dropped onto that high ground and the bird's nest up above. So, gonna be very hard for Budget HU to try and approach this, especially now that the EMP lands. Chef Big Dog out of the fight. Crispy, though, was able to dodge the EMP. They're gonna get that sound barrier off, but a nano barrage comes out. It's not going to find its intended target, though. And Budget HU now with a slight lead in the kill feed. That is until Pommy has something to say about it. Overtime has been triggered. Now GeForce is primed to take this point. Somebody for Budget HU has to touch, and their name is Demency. They get back onto the point. They're dodging the hack, but they can only do that for so long as they have to keep presence on the point. But now it's just up to Akawa on the Reinhardt, Chef Big Dog on the Moira. Dancing on and off the point, trying to stay alive, trying to make something happen, but they just can't, and GeForce will take what was Budget HU's best shot on paper of taking this map.
And this is just what GeForce does. I've seen them do this so many times, it's insane. It's all about disruption. It's all about distracting and confusing the opponent. You've got Ultimate Wep chunking in damage from above, Strider from the front, Pommy from the back, Madero just lobbing in those shots with the Discord Orb. There's just so many things to try and keep an eye on. And Akawa, as the shot caller, assumedly, and the main frontliner, who do you aggress upon? Because if you try and charge at Strider, for example, you're just opening yourself up at so many different angles. But now, of course, they're going to go back to a more traditional brawl comp here. Try and get up. What a beautiful disruption from Strider. Has just completely discombobulated them yet again.
Yeah, just an absolutely stellar rollout there from Strider to keep that Budget HU brawl squad from getting set up on point as quickly as they wanted to. They're still going to be able to get that position, but it's not going to be as secure as they had maybe hoped. In the meantime, though, they are going to be able to take both tanks out of the equation and out of the fight. First possession going over to Budget HU.
Yeah, nicely done there for Budget HU. This is what it's going to be all about for them. Even though GeForce are going to be throwing everything they can into their face to try and knock them apart, you have to keep together. You have to keep your eyes on the prize. And they did a great job there for that first fight, but there's still many more to get through.
That there are, and already GeForce is starting to surround this Budget HU squad. This is once again going to be the approach that they're going to want to take, and frankly, GeForce, this map is built a little bit better for them to do just that rather than Control Center, but point still firmly under control of Budget HU, and now with this Amp Matrix online as well, it's going to make for easy pickings, especially considering anyhow is out of their mech too. Strider able to get one pick, but is it going to be enough to start to counter what has happened already on point?
Yeah, GeForce are really kind of hanging back right now, not going super aggressive yet. Oh, actually going for a bit of a spawn camp here onto Crispy. Can that Lucio get away? No.
Wow.
This is interesting. Now there's a 5v6 in favor of GeForce. It can go back in with the EMP, the Pulse Bomb, the Mines. There's going to be an onslaught on the Budget HU.
Oh, it absolutely is a beautiful little bit of tech right there from Strider to get that slam onto Chef Big Dog, which will yield kill onto them as well. Nice environmental onto Noxious. That's going to clear the point even more for GeForce. They will be able to take possession of it once this stagger is taken out of the equation.
And poor Crispy trying to get on and tiptoe onto the point, but it's just a little bit too late. Budget HU, though, 80% onto the point. You can't be too upset with that at all. One more really good fight here could potentially get you in position to take us to a round 3. And you have the Shatter, the Blizzard,
oh, wow.
the Beat. There's a lot going for you here.
Ultimate Wep, though, is down and out of the fight. Anyhow, now throws out the self-destruct to try and gain a little bit of time for Ultimate Wep to get back to the fight. Sound Barrier going to be committed in an aggressive way to allow Budget HU to get on the point. But in the meantime, Madero picks off Chef Big Dog. Shatter will land, but it's not going to result in any kills except for Akawa's. And with that, wow. Budget HU going to have to reset.
That's the beauty of GeForce. Even when they were down ultimates and they were down players to start that fight, it just doesn't matter because these players are so good at spreading apart, playing more spread out and making one individual loss not mean quite as much if the rest of them can really pop off. Now Budget HU, they're a little bit depleted. They used a lot of ults in that last fight, so now they just have the Ant Matrix to work with.
They're going to have to make sure that this Ant Matrix is useful for the whole team so that they can start to recharge those ultimates. In the meantime, though, Pummy is down. They had Bob. That was a win condition here for GeForce. Angelic going to be forced to pop now the rally. Again, that's going to allow them to get more aggressive. And with that, AO is taken out of their mech for Budget HU. Chef Big Dog out of the fight. No big heals left. And with that, it is just a barrage of kills in favor of GeForce. And now we've entered last fight territory. Budget HU has to come in huge.
Yeah, this is going to be huge. A lot of pressure on the Noxious to maybe try and get an opening kill for that Deadeye. And if you can do that, then all of a sudden you're in a big situation here with both Tankled up, but you've lost your Tracer. What a beautiful shot from Pummy, and they can't get on point in time. Oh my gosh, they just disrupted them. They did it again, and this time it was Pummy just getting a straight up headshot onto the Tracer in the back. And after that, Budget HU, they just couldn't gather themselves in time to get that touch. GeForce have Budget HU looking confused.
That they do, and they did it arguably without having to use what I think is the strongest map for this Wrecking Ball composition.
Yeah.
Lijiang Gardens, right? And, you know, I was looking to Night Market as an opportunity for Budget HU to show us some of their flexibility, show us that, you know, they're willing to swap off of what they're running to do what it takes to win. In some ways, I was expecting to maybe even see a six-man dive come out there, right? Something that, again, you know, has a brawl component, but is maybe a little bit more mobile. Didn't see that happening. You know, I think that was another option they could have explored. So, you know, moving into these next maps, I'm a little bit worried for Budget HU, not only because they're down one map here, not just because GeForce is in the lead on the scoreboard, but because they haven't shown me yet, and they had the opportunity to, that they can flex onto what is going to give this GeForce squad problems.
They had an interesting little off-meta pick here, kind of going brawl except for a Tracer. It was an interesting idea to maybe try and sort of challenge the GeForce players on the flanks, make it so that they can't quite get their positions as easily. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. I think that Budget HU in this case probably would have been better off just going straight in on the brawl and just trying to stay together as a unit, as a six, because with the way the Budget HU were playing, the second that one of them got picked off, the entirety of the rest of the team would fall like dominoes, and that is what GeForce is going to prey on every single time.
It absolutely is. You know, that entire composition, it's designed to find a weakness, right? Either find a weakness or create one, right? Through this disruption, and then exploit that. And that's exactly what they did, right? And frequently it was that Tracer, it was that lone player who was kind of out on their own. So we're going to be moving to Havana next, which I think is an absolutely stellar pick coming out from Budget HU. This map is, I wouldn't say it's a nightmare for Wrecking Ball, but it's certainly not where you want to find yourself.
Yeah, when I think of Havana, I think of two main things. One, brawl-based fights at the very start of the map, just trying to hold people in spawn for as long as possible. And in those short-range fights, Akawa is going to have just a field day against a potential Wrecking Ball composition that GeForce will try and point out. And then also long sight lines for sniper characters. It hasn't been used as much as of recently, but still, we do occasionally see a Widowmaker, an Ashe, a Hanzo come out on this map, especially on the first 2 points, just because it is really easy for a one-shot character like that to just fire a shot from across the map and completely derail a push. So, and in that case, if you can try and put pressure onto the flankers or the Wrecking Ball or even the supports of GeForce before they can really get a chance to close the distance on you and start disrupting you, then that could potentially be Budget HU's win condition.
It certainly could, and I think the key to what you said right there is close the distance, right? Because again, and I'll probably harp on this a lot, but the Wrecking Ball composition is designed to surround the other squad and then pick them apart from the outside in. And there's just so much space that has to be covered before you can even consider doing that, right? These long straightaways where, Wrecking Ball can maybe skirt along the side in some of these hallways that we're looking at right now, right? But that there's not much hope for the rest of the squad to be able to do that. They just move too slow. So it's, one of the big questions is how does this squad close the distance? Of course, that's not going to be an issue right off the bat, but for the rest of the map, it will be.
So there's going to be quite a bit of pressure on Ultimaweb here to try and get a bunch of damage on this Echo from the top. Strider, of course, going, okay, yeah, they're going for the close hold. And this is now the starting fight. And again, with this Brawl composition at short range, Budget HU should have the advantage.
Oh, wow. A couple of picks coming in very, very quickly. Now, even though Budget HU is in the lead in the kill feed right now, the key is that Akawa is already down and Noxious is very low. They're still going to have to yield some space to GeForce here. Again, despite them leading in the kill feed, at least they were. That is until Ultimaweb and Madara, and frankly, the entire GeForce squad have something to say about it.
It felt like Budget HU just kind of lost focus there for a second. They should have just stayed right at the spawn doors and tried to hold GeForce in for a while, but I don't know, maybe someone got around to the back or something and Budget HU tried to go and chase after that kill, and as a result, opened up a little bit of space, just enough space for GeForce to work with, and Strider already has mines. It's been one fight. That is insane. With Budget HU making a couple of swaps, they have a fantastic ult advantage to try and push through the end of A.
Akawa already forced to use the Fortify as well. That's just a signal to how well this GeForce squad is doing what they need to do. A flurry of kills in their favor. Demency able to get one, but it's just not going to matter as GeForce continues to tighten the screws on Budget HU.
This is insane right now. GeForce win that with only the mines, which means they're going to be entering into point B. I assume Budget HU aren't going to try and contest this. They're too far away. They're going to set up on point B. But GeForce have everything except for the mines to help dislodge this well thought out high ground push here from Budget HU. This is why you have the Orisa, because she can get set up on this high ground behind her shield, get really safe and secure, but there's so many tools like this Dragon Strike to force them away.
I'm a little puzzled by the Dragon Strike, I'm not going to lie. I feel as though they should have waited for Anyhow with the Gravitic Flux, but Ultimaweb able to get a couple of kills. Budget HU pushed back to a position they don't want to be in. They are on the low ground now in a corner. And GeForce just able to close, GeForce is just able to close this distance so quickly on the Orisa that I'm not sure this is the pick.
Look at that little Tracer silhouette. Demency is caught in the middle of no man's land, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
No, that Dragon Strike wasn't necessarily for damage or combos. It was for zoning, right?
Yes.
You had to use that Dragon Strike to push Akawa back and give yourself room to move forward. Even though you didn't use it in conjunction with the Gravitic Flux, it put them into a vulnerable position that then the Gravitic Flux could come in and finish off that fight for you.
Def Big Dog already used the Amplification Matrix, but not too many members of Budget HU with an ultimate at the moment. They will be able to build them, and crucially, Madero already has to use the Transcendence. This should be Budget HU's time to strike. Akawa has the Supercharger online. Strider drops the mines. That's going to make things very difficult for Budget HU to get out of this corner, and in fact, it allows Strider to continue to put pressure on, but they may have bit off a bit more they can chew. The res will be in, but the Supercharger is out and doing work already. Noxious able to get Bob into the fight, and with that supercharged damage coming in, that's going to make things very difficult. Anyhow, with another Gravitic Flux, but this time not going to be able to do what they had hoped it would. And that's going to be Budget HU finally starting to find some footing here on Havana.
Yeah, this Orisa combo is working out really well for Budget HU so far. GeForce have like a labyrinth of high grounds that they have to try and navigate, while Budget HU is just pouring down damage from above from so many different sources. It's a really good position where even if Budget HU lose a couple of players, the rest of them are still in a strong enough position that they can win out these fights. And now, I mean, GeForce used several ults to try and push that through and got just about nothing out of it. Here comes yet another zoning Dragon Strike, though. It's going to force Akawa and Chef Big Dog in a position they don't really want to be in.
Pummey going down very low, but then again, so is Noxious, and already Dimensi out of the fight. Another amplification matrix by Chef Big Dog. They are pulling these out left, right, and center, but it's going to be Ultima Wep with a pick. Early on, a nice roll through from Strider to try and disrupt and dislodge this bunker composition. It does just that, but they're going to be able to regroup for one final push here.
Yeah, they're going to have to get set up really quickly, though, because that point is going through towards the end of B, and it is going to be Dimensi coming in to get a couple of touches, and next is going to be AO3, but is immediately taken out of that mech. I don't know if you wanted to take this, because GeForce have several ultimates available, including what is going to be a Bob from GeForce, and yeah, that is going to be the point given up to Budget HU. You're just basically feeding ult charge to GeForce at this point by continuing to fight this.
Wow! Yeah, the point was already gone. And Budget HU, they continue to fight, they continue to push the issue, but that really did not end up working out well for them. And now, Dimensi gonna be staggered once again. But the silver lining is they did get several ults out of GeForce. They were able to get the mines out of the way, they were able to get the duplicate out of the way, but they still have the Flux Dragons.
They do have the Flux Dragons, and this is a situation where I could see them using that to combo together. But Budget HU are going to have everything except the Gravitic Flux available for them to stop GeForce in their tracks.
Here comes the Dragon Strike. It's going to find one target, but in the meantime, Budget HU has picked up a pair. The Pulse Bomb will land, taking Ultima Wep out of the equation. The res does come in, so they are back in the fray now. Pummey looking for an opportunity to find a head, but they're going to be dissuaded from doing just that by the Dynamite, forced down to a lower ground position. But in the meantime, because of this pummeling that GeForce is giving Budget HU, they've been forced to back off to the arches here on this final point of Havana.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of the final stand here. Can you hold GeForce outside of the castle right now? You have so many really good mobility characters for GeForce that can allow them to kind of slip in and out of these choke points. At Budget HU, they're going to try and get sturdied up with Akawa's Supercharger and use that damage boost to keep them away.
Chef Big Dog coming in clutch with a pick on this Strider. Pummey falls very quickly after that, and now this bunker composition, through the help of that Supercharger, able to get the kills they need and take the timer down to a little under a minute.
Yeah, beautiful play there from Budget HU. They surge forward the second that the Supercharger goes down. Don't even let GeForce try and figure out where that Supercharger is before they're already dead. But GeForce, now 40 seconds left on the clock. This is probably their last really good chance at a fight, and what a fight it's going to be for them. The Dragon Strike, the Duplicate, the Mines, the Transcendence, all coming up for them right now. They have all the tools that they need to try and breach this castle.
They do, and Budget HU, they're going to have to try and find a way to get that Transcendence out. I think they're either going to need to use the Gravitic Flux or the Pulse Bomb to try and do just that. My money's on the Pulse Bomb, but big minefield coming in, negating the usefulness of that Amplification Matrix, but not before they force out the Resurrection from Angelic. Overtime has now been triggered. Here comes a big Flux, but it doesn't catch anybody. AO missed. They whiffed on it. They are going to be able to eventually get Pummey, but not before the Dragon Strike is thrown. Nice Pulse Bomb from Dimensi. This could signal the beginning of the end for GeForce. Ultima Wep now trying to find something with this Gravitic Flux, but they're going to be taken out of it. Both supports down and out of the fight. Budget HU will be able to hold on at the final moment here. Strider with the last-ditch effort with the minefields. They go in for a touch to see if they can stagger long enough for somebody to make it back. Lucio's here, but they don't quite touch, and that will be where the buck stops for GeForce.
This was, of course, the Budget HU map choice, and we see exactly why they chose it throughout their defense. They really doubled down on these sturdy defensive comps based on the Orisa, based on playing around the high grounds, based around just kind of taking the aggressive pushes from GeForce and the flanks and just being able to sustain through it. And while GeForce did have some success, I mean, Havana is a very defensive-based map, and getting close to the end of the map is considered a pretty solid success in itself. The fact that Budget HU were able to hold outside of the gates means that now the win condition is set. Now, my question is for Budget HU, are they going to continue on this Orisa composition on their attack? I feel like, personally, the fact that GeForce now will be able to kind of pick and choose when they take engagements on you if you continue to run this kind of slow composition, I'm not sure if you're going to have as much success on this double shield comp on the attack as you did on the defense.
No, I think this is going to be try to, you know, force a square peg through a round hole in a little bit. You know, this composition really, it doesn't find the same kind of strength that it does on defense, but when you're up against a composition like GeForce is presenting you with, sometimes you have to make that sacrifice in order to play the counter comp game, right? It's always a question, are you playing the counter comp game or are you playing towards the map? And in most cases, it's going to be better to play against the comp. GeForce gonna yield a little bit of space here to Budget HU. Once again, they need to surround them, so that cart needs to get a little bit of movement forward before they're in an ideal position to really start to do what they need to do. Now, Budget HU starting to push themselves out of this cafe on the left side of this straightaway. Akawa now firmly positioned on that corner, a great place for them to start to mount their attack and their push. In the meantime, GeForce already building up ultimates. Pummy 60% of the way to an EMP. Strider and Anyhow about 40% of the way to their ultimates as well. And in the meantime, Noxious has fallen. So, Budget HU finding themselves in a bad position, especially now that both tanks are out of the mix. This fight is over in favor of GeForce.
And this is what I was talking about at the start of the map, I mean, even though Budget HU do everything they can to try and play around the cover that Havana A offers them, GeForce are eventually able to wrap around them. They're able to separate Noxious from the rest of the team and take them out, and then move in based on that 5v6 advantage. Look at the ultimates for GeForce now. You have the EMP, you have the Pulse Bomb, you have the Mines. They're just going to continue to build on their advantage.
They do that beautifully. A 5-man EMP comes in courtesy of Pummy. The Pulse Bomb's gonna land with ease. It's gonna be AO3 out of the mech and nobody left standing for Budget HU.
Super quick fight, but that actually was a lot of ultimates for GeForce. I would say even an overcommitment there. Use 4 ultimates there on the back of that EMP, which means all they have here is going to be the rally and also the Gorilla Club from Anyhow, which is quite a bit. But these fights have been ending so quickly, actually, that Budget HU haven't really had a chance to build up many ults of their own. AO3 just swapped over on the D.Va, resetting their ult charge.
Oh,
that was
Anyhow.
That was a nice pull-in from Akawa to trap Anyhow.
That is huge. Angelic goes down to just a sliver of health as well. They're going to be taken out of the fight. They use that rally, too, to try and stay alive, but it's the rally from Crispy that ends up being the solution for Budget HU. And look at this. They didn't even have to use the supercharger.
Yeah, that is huge. What a heads-up play from the veteran main tank Akawa to get Budget HU moving again. But still, 1 minute 20 seconds left on the clock, and GeForce are looking like they're going to want to try and push back into this with the Flux.
I think this is a good idea from them. They're at least going to force out ultimates, namely that Deadeye. It will find a pick on a Madero. That is big. Noxious continuing their reign of terror, finding one more onto Pummy. And this point will go over to Budget HU.
Yeah, nicely done there for Budget HU, staying composed even with the last-second recontest from GeForce. But it did force out a little more than I think they wanted. Had to use the supercharger in addition to that Deadeye in order to keep everything locked up. And they have significantly less time than GeForce did up to this point. 3 minutes is still a decent time bank, but GeForce with that EMP, with that Pulse Bomb, could have a lot to say about it. And man, I mean, I think Demency just had a heart attack right there.
I think so too, yeah. That was really close for them. They're having a hard time staying out of harm's way, and this minefield from Strider, absolutely tremendous. Opened things up in a huge way for GeForce. They're going to be able to reclaim control of this cart.
Yeah, now GeForce are going to be the ones taking advantage of this high ground right now. Anyhow is going to have such an easy time just setting up that Sigma Shield, standing behind it, and just pouring those Hyperspheres down onto Budget HU as they try and push in. And again, this is a slow-moving comp. They're just going to trot forward slow and steady, trying to take space a little bit at a time, but that gives so many opportunities for GeForce to push onto them.
It's going to be a self-destruct to start things off for Budget HU. That's going to force out the Transcendence from Madero. Anyhow, getting very close to this Gravitic Flux, but Crispy already has the opportunity to pop the rally. They're likely going to want to hold on to this, especially considering Angelic is out of the fight, and they had that rally ready to go. This should be Budget HU taking this fight and continuing to push on through Havana.
I love the aggressive use of the rally there from Crispy in order to give Budget HU the armor that they needed to really push forward on the GeForce. You saw them push them back further and further and further until they just had nowhere left to go. But look at the ults now for GeForce. They're going to have potentially all 6 available if Madero can get some really nice volleys off on the Zenyatta. But at least 5 are going to be coming up for this fight to keep them out of point C.
How gets briefly stunned. Madero out of the fight despite that extra rally armor. Chef Big Dog with the with that window going to be able to help their team do a lot more damage. Ikawa goes down very low. They are taken out of the fight. Pulse Bomb of Ultima Web's not going to find its intended target, courtesy of AO3, who just got demeched as well. Strider potentially with the finishing touch here with that minefield on point, but they're just the last remaining member. Can they hold out long enough? It's going to be Angelic finding their way back to point. They may have to be the one who touches as Strider is down to just a sliver of life. They are taken out of the equation. Now Angelic and the rest of the team dropping down to see if they can stall out this point even longer. That is going to force out a Deadeye from Noxious, but Akawa going to be able to potentially hold on to the Supercharger. Madero back now with the Transcendence. Akawa does have to use the Supercharger. That's just about every ult put out into this. Anyhow, takes them out. No more Supercharger left. 20 seconds left to go. GeForce is back to full strength.
This is disastrous for Budget HU. They use so much to try and push through towards the end, but GeForce have such fast characters, they're able to stagger and stagger and stagger until they can finally get an opening. And it started with Strider and it ended with Anyhow. Now Budget HU, they've got to try and push forward. Oh, but no one's on the point. Oh, they just barely get back in time.
Three, got to use that self-destruct to try and clear point, but they're not going to be able to. Strider does fall. Ultima Web with just a sliver of health. Once again, Angelic forced to use that rally. Budget HU just down to 3 members as his GeForce is going to be up to these final 6 to see how this is going to end. There's going to be a stick from Dimensi, but it doesn't result in a kill. Crispy forced to swap over to the Lucio to try to get back to point as quick as they can, but Ultima Web has already found Chef Big Dog. That means no heals until Crispy gets back, and they're just now into the fight. But how much can they do? It's not enough, and GeForce puts Budget HU on the ropes at 2-0.
Our number 1 seed is now just 1 game away from getting knocked down to the losers bracket. GeForce has been one of the top teams in the tier 3 amateur scene for a long time, Tokugan, and we are seeing why right here. They have mastered the art of this Wrecking Ball composition. They seem to have a plan A, B, C for every single scenario because they have played it so many times into so many teams. You can throw anything in the playbook at them. They've seen it before.
They absolutely have. You know, the synergy that we're seeing from this GeForce squad, it's so far, it's been too much for Budget HU to handle.
And that's with new main support, by the way. Angelic hasn't been with GeForce for very long, and it's insane to see how well that main support has really fit in with the rest of the squad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Budget HU at this point, they just look to be bamboozled, confused. Now, you know, we're seeing a different look out of them. We did see one swap, but I wonder if maybe we didn't need to see a little bit more to try and keep Budget HU, you know, on their toes a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They I think they're sticking to their guns a little bit too hard. And I would like to see a little bit more flexibility come out from Budget HU in their next map. Now, you know, you said earlier that map choice is going to be essential here, and it's absolutely the case moving into this third and potentially final map.
Yeah, G-Force are one game away from securing themselves a top 3 finish in Open Division Winners Finals, getting themselves in the money, the prize pool. It's a big one, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this short break.
In this story of David and Goliath, or perhaps a hamster and Goliath, we're seeing Budget HU on the ropes right now, courtesy of GeForce, the number 12 seed, primed to upset the number 1 here in the winners semifinals of Open Division 2022. Dividing this has excitement written all over it.
G-Force has that perfect rock that has been set up in the sling and are getting ready to hit Goliath right between the eyes here. And that rock, of course, is the Wrecking Ball based composition. It has confused and perplexed just about every opponent that they have faced over the last 6 months, and Budget HU have been no different. They have tried several different strategies to try and counter it, whether that's freezing up G-Force, going for an Orisa-based composition, trying to go for a bit of a flanker comp of their own to try and challenge G-Force's flankers to try and keep them from getting position. No matter what they do, the experience and the synergy of G-Force and this Wrecking Ball composition has been coming out on top.
Yeah, it has, time and time again, and despite what Budget HU is throwing at them, nothing has seemed to stick so far. So, Budget HU in a very difficult position now because, frankly, I think moving to Havana was one of their best opportunities to come back with a win here. So, as we move on to our next map, Blizzard World, Budget HU gonna have the same problem, I think, that they had before, but exasperated a little bit. I think that their best chance, I think they had a better chance on Havana than here, but they're gonna have to try and make it work regardless.
I think there's a lot of the same ideas behind picking Blizzard World as there was behind Havana. There is a lot of high ground, especially on that point B, for you to be able to take advantage of. Point A as well. It seems like what this tells me is Budget HU think that their Orisa comps are good enough to slow down and force G-Force away from the Wrecking Ball comps, or at the very least, win more than half of the fights against them, right? So That, I think, is what Budget HU is thinking, but I can only say this as a neutral observer. It just hasn't worked very well so far. I'm hoping we can see maybe some more adjustments coming out from Budget HU, maybe go for some more longer range DPS players or something like that.
Yeah, I think that could be the answer here. But there's so many ways for Wrecking Ball and this disruption based composition to kind of wiggle their way to the point, right? And start to surround this Budget HU composition that again, I just think it's gonna be tougher for them this time, right? For them to find the kind of success that they need from these longer range heroes, they're gonna have to watch these flanks with a hawk's eye.
What are these little robots called? I feel like they're from some Blizzard entity game because everything is on this map. But they're very cute.
Yeah, they are.
Like them.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. Can we get that back? Did I see a Genji on the screen there for a second? I think I saw Budget HU running out with a Genji. Oh, the Menzi is on the Genji. Interesting. So no Ana to accompany it. So this isn't the Nanoblade comp from Budget HU, but the Menzi, I think they're hoping that brawly sort of short to mid-range damage that Genji can output with the shurikens. Since there aren't very many shields on the side of GeForce, Demency should be able to dash all around and do whatever they want and just put in tons of damage onto a lot of the weaker and more squishy characters on GeForce.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna make their life hard, but Demency, you know, typically when you're playing against you're playing for Blade. So they're going to have to really... They've got their work cut out for them trying to charge this ultimate because it's going to be hard to nail down any one player to try and farm that Blade off of. Strider now giving a little bit of problem to Noxious in the back line. They're going to get them down very low, eventually finished off by Ultimaweb. However, in the meantime, Budget HU has struck, and they have struck hard. Angelic out of the fight. Now it's just Madero trying to keep the rest of the team up, but... smartly, they're going to back off, give a little bit of room while they wait to regroup.
It was a well-executed dive there from Strider and Ultimaweb, but it took just a little bit too long. The tanks on Budget HU were able to slow down GeForce for just long enough in order to push forward and give themselves the advantage even when they lost their Ashe. Now we actually see Pummy go onto an Ashe of their own. We're going to be seeing a little bit of a long-range DPS battle here, which means they have acknowledged and respected this comp switch from Budget HU.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Now, Akawa already had the Fortify Force out. Chef Big Dog had to use the Immortality Field, so now it's just going to be up to this Amplification Matrix, but fortunately it's doing exactly what it needed to do, and Budget HU, they're starting to look like they may have figured things out. They may have cracked this puzzle.
And you also want to draw attention to the support lines. Budget HU going with the Brigitte here means they are going to have so much more healing available to them. The Brigitte back support line makes your double shield tank so much tankier, especially if that Brigitte is able to keep Inspire up really long. Madero's Discord Orb is going to make the dives a lot easier, but GeForce hasn't been able to commit on that quick enough, but that was a really nice one. Noxious down early.
With a huge stick coming out from Ultimaweb, that's going to take the Supercharger out and deal a lot of damage to Budget HU. The Immortality Field was there, and Crispy able to get that rally out. That's going to slow things down quite a bit, but maybe not enough because Demency's taken out of the fight. Could be long enough, though, for the reinforcements to get there for Budget HU, so GeForce gonna have to try and wrap this up quickly, but it's gonna be a lot harder without Strider. Anyhow, trying to see if they can continue the push, if they can continue the momentum. They use the Gravitic Flux, but it's not gonna get the value that it necessarily needed either. Budget HU able to weather that storm. Chef Big Dog goes down very low. They get the Amplification Matrix out. Pulse Bomb is going to land, but the Fortify from Akawa is there. Budget HU, it looks like they're starting to figure this out.
This is what we've been needing to see from Budget HU this whole time. GeForce is throwing everything at them right now from so many different angles, trying to confuse, discombobulate them like they've done for the first few maps, like they did for basically every match they've ever played. And Budget HU are holding. They are taking it, and they are staying alive, and they are sustaining. And all of a sudden, GeForce are down to just 40 seconds here with just a little bit over one tick on this first point. Budget HU have the blade from Demency that could sentence GeForce to a full hold on Blizzard World.
However, Madero does have the Transcendence. Angelic's gonna have the rally. Crispy pops theirs first, though. If Demency can get this blade out before Pummy comes into play with the Bob, that could signal the end, but they're not going to be able to do that. Immortality Field committed. Look at how low everybody is. The Immortality Field's gone. They pop both support ults. GeForce gonna be able to take this point at the last moment possible.
Yeah, layer on the support ultimates, doesn't matter, you're gonna get it done. You needed to get it done that fight. That was your last fight. Make sure that Demency's Blade Kid has no hope of having any effect on the fight. And GeForce do unlock the point, but it took them a really long time, just about until overtime. And because of that, because of how defensively favored the map is from this point forward on Blizzard World, the clock is not going to be GeForce's friend, already down to about 2 minutes.
Ultimate Wep is going to land a pulse bomb onto Crispy. That's a pretty big boon for GeForce, but Budget HU has the potential to be able to weather that storm. Not with the Gravitic Flux landing, however, and taking AO3 out of the fight. GeForce gonna be able to continue to push on through the streets of Blizzard World.
Yeah, nicely done there from GeForce. Really taking the initiative there on that fight. But, I mean, you look at their ultimate, Pummy's getting kind of close to the Bob, but other than that, you really don't have anything to work with here to try and push across point B, unless you get a really nice opening pick, which, to be fair, wouldn't put past them. Budget HU are going to be coming out here with the Supercharger with the Gravitic Flux coming up really soon. Jeff Big Dog will surely have that Amp Matrix. They should be able to hold here on paper.
They absolutely should, but if Pummy can get this Bob out in time, and considering Demency's out of the fight, Nakawa's already spent the Supercharger, this has the potential to continue to go GeForce's way. Pummy does commit the Bob. It's going to provide a lot of pressure on point, but the Amp Matrix is countering very, very well. Noxious with their own Bob now, but Pummy coming in big. They're able to handle some of those picks coming in onto GeForce. Madero there with the Transcendence. Might not have needed it, but it's certainly going to guarantee them this point.
I feel like Budget HU were just playing a little bit too passively there. I think they had the ultimates available to them in order to take, in order to be able to hold there. If they had just been more aggressive and used those ultimates before they had already lost Demency and gone down a player. Even though they almost brought it back. Oh my gosh, look at this from Strider. Going very aggressive, trying to take out Akali, even committing the mines on top of that Orisa. Doesn't get anything out of it, but has forced Budget HU back for a while, and that's going to give GeForce a little bit of space, a little bit of point control. But now here, okay, here comes Budget HU pushing back forward here. GeForce, they're going to have to wait for their main tank to come back into this one. This is a really interesting fight here, Dogod. Both sides have 3 ultimates available. Budget HU with the Pulse Bomb, the Flux, and the Rally, and GeForce with the Pulse Bomb, the Flux, and the Rally as well, actually. This is a mirrored ult composition from both sides, which means whoever uses them better is going to come out on top most likely.
The rally definitely going to favor Budget HU here, but Demency already out of the fight. Couple of picks, though, for each side. No supports, crucially, for GeForce, so if they're going to make something happen, they have to do it fast. Fortunately, fast is what this composition does well. They're able to take Chef Big Dog out of the fight and force Crispy to use the rally. They're still getting a couple picks despite not having any support or any healers. They're able to sustain themselves completely off of health pack.
Oh no. Oh, Angelic finally puts Crispy out of their misery. And Budget HU are sent back to spawn once again. And oh man, once again, Demency is caught out in no man's land going for a plank. This isn't the first time we've seen this happen, and now even though Budget HU technically have the ult advantage, they're down players.
Demency has been the Achilles heels right now for a Budget HU. They're getting picked off so much that so many of these fights are just 5v6, and look, there wasn't even a contest for the card, because Demency was still respawning.
And now Budget HU are in a bit of a sticky situation here. Once again, going with the Orisa-based compositions tends to be more effective on the defense, where you can really get set up behind that Orisa and just try and take the attack from GeForce. Budget HU, if Havana was any indication, they're probably going to go for the Orisa-based compositions again, which, I mean, I already said on Havana why I didn't necessarily like it, but that is kind of the strategy that they, I think, have decided to go with here. It's what they've decided is going to have the best shot of finishing Blizzard World and keeping themselves in this series all of a sudden, Juggle God, Budget HU have their backs against the wall. They have to finish Blizzard World in order to keep themselves in it. If GeForce can stop them at any point, that is it. GeForce move on to the grand finals. And Strider is on the Reinhardt. Look at that.
Wow.
I don't know if this is an actual comp or if they're BMing a little bit.
I think they're just trying to I think they're just trying to throw us off in the casting booth, frankly, because
well, I mean,
if you look at the rest, if you look at the rest of the oh yeah, you're right. Actually, never mind. I forgot they're not on attack anymore. It's the Strider Heart. I can't believe this. This is going to be really, really fascinating.
Strider seems to be going for a charge off the map here, and unfortunately, GeForce, Budget HU did in fact choose the wrong map for that. So I imagine after that little funny attempt, Strider's going to go back onto the Wrecking Ball here. Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. You need to have their Wrecking Ball back. If for any reason then to get back to the point in time for Budget HU to not have a 65 advantage. It seems like Budget HU are actually looking for Strider right now on the way back to point, but they just don't see him. So now they have gone all the way around, and they have a pretty solid vantage point onto the rest of GeForce here to try and take this one.
Oh, what a beautiful boot, though, coming out from Strider to completely disrupt that composition. Now an opportunity for a entire middle kill. Doesn't quite get the job done, but they're going to be able to roll through again in just a moment and continue to disrupt this bunker, which has now found itself in a very unideal position. They're just going to be picked apart at the seams.
Gosh, this is just a mastery of Wrecking Ball mechanics. I need to see that whole rollout from Strider's perspective. Where the heck did that Wrecking Ball come from? Because we just swapped him, and he just flew in on top of the high ground, knocked everyone off, and was just a complete menace. That entire attack, rolling through, pile driving, just doing so much damage to Budget HU. This Wrecking Ball player is a monster right now. Already has the mines available, even though they had to swap off of the Reinhardt at the start of that fight. I'm at a loss for words. That was incredible to watch.
It absolutely was. And Blizzard, I am making a plea to you right now. Buff Wrecking Ball in Overwatch 2. How can you deny us this amazing kind of gameplay that we're seeing coming out from these top-tier Wrecking Ball players? It is artistry at work, Dividing. We need to see him make a comeback in Overwatch 2, because this is a hero that I think you can really see players express their creativity on, their prowess on, and I am just so thrilled that we have one final opportunity here in Open Division to see this kind of tremendous play come out of a Wrecking Ball player. Anyhow, gonna be able to use that Gravitic Flux so early before Budget HU is even halfway to point and completely wipe the slate clean with them.
I mean, what did Budget HU even do at this point? Look at that. Was kind of funny. Chef Big Dog just sliding past Strider there. He was trying to get off. Budget HU have 4 ultimates, and they have gotten rid of Pummy. So kind of trades with Chef Big Dog there, which is actually going to force GeForce to back off for a second here. It's going to take a little while for that Baptiste to come back from spawn. So this is now the opportunity that Budget HU have been waiting for. With both Tangles and both support ultimates available, they have quite a few tools to try and break this one open. But they have to be quick about it. They have to be assertive. They have to be decisive. They have to make sure that GeForce can't get set up the way that they want to.
They're going to be able to try and do that quickly with this rally. Strider already forced back, taken out of the fight. Gravitic Flux now coming in from AO3. They could have cracked this point wide open right here. Is Dementi able to take Ultimate Web out of the equation as well? Akawa, if they need it, they have the supercharger, but this fight is essentially over already. They've got the point, they've got the positioning. Can GeForce come back in and disrupt? Even if Strider gets there, they don't have anything to really utilize here. They're able to proc the adaptive shields, but they're only going to last for so long. And anyhow, they're gonna try and take this Gravitic Flux. They're gonna see if they can bring it back, but Ultimate Web taken out of the fight again. Demency with the Deadeye finds Madero. Angelic not long for this world. Budget HU will in fact cap and live to fight another day.
So another fight continues for Budget HU. They keep themselves in this one by the skin of their teeth here. And they actually managed to hang on to Supercharger there. That requires some guts from Akawa to not just let go of it and make sure that they can keep themselves alive in this game. But that means you now have that key ultimate available for this next fight to try and really take over this high ground that I'm sure Strider and Anyhow are going to be trying to take advantage of very quickly here. Look at this, though. They're going for the cart.
Yeah, they are. Very, very quickly, as a matter of fact. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out well for Strider, but they're going to be back in the fight relatively quickly. So as long as GeForce can kite away some of this damage from the Supercharger, they should be in a good position. But Pummey gonna commit Bob, who's taken out of the fight quickly. That Supercharger gone as well, so both ults negated at this point. But Demency already got a pick on the Ultimate Weapon, so at this point, GeForce is just staggering themselves.
Yeah, GeForce are really kind of struggling to figure out where they want to actually attack on this one. Noxious gets taken out, but Pummey also does on the other side. It seems like as this card continues to push through point B, GeForce are continuously at a player disadvantage because they just refuse to pull out. They never say die. They continue to just fight and try and push for advantages. They have the Transcendence from Madero now if they want to use it for aggression.
They sure do, and it looks like they're going to be able to get away from this amplification matrix without having to use the Transcendence, but it comes out a little too late, not in time to save either of the DPS, so I think a little bit of a misplay there from Madero and the GeForce squad, and that's just going to give the point to Budget HU. GeForce, I think they practically handed this to Budget HU for free.
Well, it's not quite over yet. The Gravitic Flux has come out from Anyhow, but all of a sudden the resources for GeForce are running out extremely quickly. Ultimate Weapon, the Pulse Bomb, does actually find AO3. That's a nice opening there as both teams trade back and forth. That is going to take the advantage to GeForce with that spawn advantage.
They will, in fact, they will in fact be able to cap third point, but just a minute and a half left on the clock, and well, reminder, there's $1,000 on the line right now. A burst into the top three. You're right, at least $1,000. And pride on the line as well. Both of these teams with a lot to prove today. GeForce, here to try and say that every single one of those tournament wins, not a fluke. That they can take it at one of the highest stages for Tier 2 and Tier 3. Right here in Open Division. And they've got a great start at it on this fight. Dragon Strike gonna be thrown through. That forces out the Immortality Field. That resource gone and out of the equation once again. Chef Big Dog already had to use that Amplification Matrix. Ultimate Web gonna be able to take AO3 out of the fight. Budget HU now crumbling. This is GeForce trying to say, we are ready to take this for our own. You've just got one more shot, Budget HU, and you're only going to have this Supercharger and maybe a Deadeye to try and make the magic happen.
Yeah, this is now where it all comes down for Budget HU. No more time extensions, nowhere to hide. You've got to push forward onto this incredible multi-pronged attack that GeForce has with both Tangled and both support ults coming up, and you've got to try and crack it.
It's going to be the Supercharger taken out of the fight, but AO3 finds Ultima Web. Strider has the minefield ready to go. They're going to commit it now. That's going to be a lot of space claimed now by GeForce. Budget HU, they have to scatter to the wind while they try to take some of those minefields out of the fight. Amplification Matrix allowing Pummey to get in a lot of extra damage, but Noxious finds them with a nice headshot. They've got the Bob, they've got the Deadeye, they're starting to gain some momentum, but it is overtime. If they finish this point, GeForce will have more time, but Budget HU should be able to take this. They've got the ults that they need here, Dividing.
Yeah, Noxious has come up clutch for Budget HU here, and they absolutely needed them to. Hits a clutch headshot on the Pummey, is unable to take advantage of the Amplification Matrix that Angelic put down for them, and all of a sudden, Budget HU have pushed through towards the end. They are a slow composition, Jokugat, but when you start to get that momentum rolling, they are difficult to stop.
Right. It's like rolling a bowler down a hill, right? It gets a little, it takes a while to get started, but once it's got momentum, it's hard to stop that, right? Once they've got control over the cart, once they have firmly planted their feet on that, it's hard to get them out. You know, the Fortified just provides so much staying power. The Sigma, it holds down all of the flanks, right? Helps prevent Strider and Ultimate Weapon Pummy from finding those angles that they're looking for. So, once they have control of that cart, things look pretty good for them. But we're back to first point now, dividing. Who's going to be able to cap faster? Are either of them going to be able to get a point on the board? Or are we going to see a tie? There's so much that can happen here in just a minute for both of these squads.
Yeah, Budget HU are going to be up first, of course. It's interesting for me to see that both teams are now defaulting to the Ashes on both sides. They both decided that this is how it is going to be played, but the main difference here is going to be, of course, the Zenyatta from Madero going to be trying to enable Strider on their dives, and of course Crispy on the Brigitte, trying to keep the tank line and DPS line alive through all of that. Who's going to win, the defensive style of Budget HU or the aggressive style of GeForce?
We are about to find out, as Budget HU realistically has one shot at taking this point right here. 30 seconds already expended just trying to get to point. And in the meantime, Ultimate Wep is a third of the way, as is anyhow, to their ultimates. Immortality Field already has to be used by Budget HU. That is bad. That means GeForce has the opportunity to start to strike as Budget HU continues to try and wrap around this point. They're trying to get there without taking too much damage and without allowing GeForce to try and surround this. AO3 opens things up with a pick on anyhow right before they get the Gravitic Flux online. That is a huge misplay from GeForce. Chef Big Dog already has that Amplification Matrix out. Pummy gone and out of the fight. Now one tick over in favor of Budget HU. Looks as though GeForce just going to have to give up this point to Budget HU, and despite them taking a while to get to point, Slow and Steady in this case won the race.
That was an insanely quick Amplification Matrix build from Chef Big Dog, though. I know in comparison, Rally and Transcendence are harder to build, but look at the support ult charges from the other side. Neither of them are even halfway there. When Chef Big Dog let go of that Amp Matrix, neither of them had even hit 30%. That is massively clutch from the Baptiste of Budget HU to update this point, and now everything they get from this point is just bonus.
Absolutely is. An Ultimate Wep is taken out of the fight again early on. Budget HU has a beautiful opportunity to continue to plow through here, but Bob gonna be committed by Pummy. AO3 out of the fight due to a great shot coming out from Madero. Chef Big Dog with a second Amplification Matrix in 2 fights. The Deadeye gonna be able to clear the way. Bob taken out. Madero falls as well, and now GeForce looks to be falling apart at the seams. Budget HU has found momentum, and they don't want to let it go, dividing.
The support line of Budget HU are the true MVPs here. They are doing so much work to keep their tank lines and their DPS lines alive throughout this onslaught of damage from the double sniper composition that GeForce are playing right now. And of course, we see it through the ult usage from Chef Big Dog, 2 Amp Matrixes in as many fights, but now just 30% is going to be a little bit longer before they have it this time around, and GeForce have both support ults and the Dragon Strike.
Beautiful Dragon Strike from Ultima Web. Getting that information via that Sonic Arrow proved to be the thorn in the side. That is too much for Budget HU to be able to contain, and GeForce quickly clears them of the cart and stops their progression.
But still, with only a little bit over a minute for Budget HU, that is a fantastic overtime push to get just above, just before the point B. I mean, you cannot be upset about that, especially considering GeForce only has a minute 21 to get it to that point. You are going to have so many fights in overtime here, even if they take point A immediately, which they didn't the first time around. I must remind you, GeForce were almost taken down to overtime on their attack on point A. Even if they break it open immediately, you're still going to have several opportunities on point B to stop them. Budget HU are in a fantastic position right now, and all of a sudden, now the pressure moves over to GeForce. Can they match and beat Budget HU's push to try and avoid going to a 4th map today?
Do they have the clutch factor, dividing? That is the question now, because when the pressure is on, Budget HU has risen to the occasion, and now GeForce have to show they can do the same. Of course, their record in previous tournaments says that they can, but It's a different kind of pressure when you're here in Open Division, and GeForce has to show that they are ready for it, that they are equal to it, and that they can take Budget HU out of the winner's bracket and secure themselves a spot.
Come on.
The tension will continue to build as there is a pause on the board.
You're gonna make me pull out my hair. Come on, why you gotta pause it right now? I just want to see what happens. Okay. But there was an interesting hero pick, right? Anyhow was on Zarya, which is new for GeForce. We've never seen that from them. It's pretty much been Ball Diva or Ball Sigma from them up to this point, which means they are really hoping that you can put the bubble onto probably Strider or maybe one of their flankers as they try and get around to the side, try and kind of anticipate the target focus of Budget HU, get a bunch of energy up for anyhow, and then you can really push forward with that and take space. When the Zarya is charged up and glowing like she's been through a nuclear reactor or something like that, it is really difficult for any character to stay in her face.
My only worry about this pick dividing is that Zarya plays slower than a Sigma does, right? Because you are playing for that charge, like you said, and that takes time, right? Now, if you pop both of your bubbles immediately, yes, that's only 8 seconds to try and get to about 80% charge. But if you do that, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So realistically, you're looking at about a quarter of a minute to try and get up to roughly 80%. Likely going to be more like 60 to 70. So it's a risky move dividing because
risky for sure.
GeForce only has a minute and 20 seconds. Now, that will give them 2 fights. So my eye is going to be on Zarya big time if GeForce doesn't take this in one fight, because it's going to be absolutely critical for Zarya to disengage with that charge. Otherwise, to me, this pick is almost useless. And in fact, it may be detrimental. So, let's see how this is going to play out. GeForce got to be able to get to point very, very quickly. Strider going in for the engagement. They're going to slam down. Find quite a bit of damage. That's 30% of their ult charge already there. Make it about halfway now. But in the meantime, Demetzi able to take Ultimate Web out of the fight. Things are looking a little bit rough now for GeForce. Anyhow is down. This is just about worst case scenario for GeForce. And Budget HU has to be thrilled with how this is going. Because again, look at Chef Big Dog.
That is another Ant Matrix. Again, that Baptiste doing so much work, making the dives feel a little more like the kiddie pool. There is just not much splash in that one when your Baptiste or Brigitte are healing you back up right away. And now, all of a sudden, 10 seconds left for GeForce. Strider's gonna have those mines, but GeForce really doesn't have much else to work with.
No, they don't. Strider not going to be able to get the slam off that they wanted. The bubble barely saving them. They're able to get the mines out, but at what cost? They go down out of the fight. 2 members down for each side. Anyhow, with just a sliver of life. Budget HU firmly in the driver's seat right now. Akawa proving to be a tremendous force on that Orisa. The Superchargers there. AO3 with a couple of kills. Just 1 player remaining now for GeForce. Strider up on point, just doing as much that a mechanized murderous hamster can do. But it's going to be the rally. Too much for them to handle, and Budget HU, they've done the first step on their way to clawing back to a victory in this series.
That was an insane Blizzard World map from both sides. You could tell how much both these teams really want to make this work. And now all of a sudden GeForce, they've gotta take some time to think about this now. Oh, we didn't get to see the play of the game. That's kind of sad. But they've got to take some time now to figure out now how are they going to adjust after losing a map like this. They haven't really had to think about that yet. Haven't had to deal with a loss in this series at this point. And now Budget HU, they have shown the adjustments just in time. We saw the support line step up. We saw the DPS step up in order to keep the tanks alive, in order to challenge the flankers when they threatened on the back line. They did a fantastic job of taking a lot of the bite out of the GeForce compositions. And Budget HU, I mean, if they can continue to play like that, they might just be able to pull this off. But now it is GeForce's map pick.
Yeah, are those adjustments going to be enough to make up for the fact that GeForce does have the map pick? I'm skeptical dividing. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think that the advantage is in GeForce's favor now.
Yeah.
You know, they took it very, very close on Blizzard World to Budget HU, right? They were able to come back in, show us a round 4, and show us that they're making Budget HU pull everything out to try and scrape through with a win on their map choice. And not only on their map choice, but on their map choice against a squad that you know is going to one-trick a composition. So, if that's the only way you can get this team on the ropes, and now they've got the map pick, I think Budget HU is still in trouble. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of light here. I think there's a little bit of a silver lining that they do have a game on the board, but I've got to be honest. It's not enough. What we saw in Blizzard World, I don't think is going to be enough. Now that we are headed to Volskaya Industries, GeForce's map pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a little bit of a dampening of the advantage since it was going to be an assault map up next. There isn't really an assault map where Wrecking Ball is like a dominant character like you see on a lot of escort maps and a lot of control maps. Generally, things are a lot more closed in, especially on that second point. But when it comes to assault maps, I think Volskaya is about as good as a pick as GeForce could have made here. You have a ton of room to work on point A if you can keep them there. And then point B, it gets a little bit hazy. You kind of have like one long narrow corridor, but I'm sure Strider is more than able to make it work because, I mean, unless you're going for some weird gimmick play like they did on the start of their Blizzard World defense, I can't imagine we're going to be seeing any changes out of GeForce, at least in their composition.
And no, I think you're right. And frankly, I don't think we're going to see any changes out of Budget HU either because at least first point, if we're looking at defense, right? For Budget HU, it's a beautiful point A is a beautiful place for double shield. You get each of the tanks on opposite ends of the high ground, and you just make sure that you maintain both of those angles on the point, and it becomes very difficult for a team to get any kind of purchase there. Now, of course, GeForce isn't going to be looking to do that initially. They're going to be looking to disrupt one of those bunkers. So, as long as they can weather that storm, as long as they can keep themselves out of trouble, Budget HU can take it. But, again, I still feel like I have to give the edge to GeForce here.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to just overall throughout the entirety of the series based on what we've seen. But Budget HU are really hoping that they have found the formula to keep them out. And this defense is going to be a really big indicator of whether they can continue to do that. This is, I mean, theoretically very similar to what we saw on Blizzard World Point A, right? I mean, it's a different point. The map geometry is going to be different, obviously. But it's the same sort of situation where GeForce are going to be trying to use that Wrecking Ball, that Hanzo to try and get around everybody, and Budget HU are just going to have to try and take it and keep themselves alive, keep themselves together close to that support line.
And, you know, this is great. Budget HU, instead of opting for that double shield different angle kind of look, they're grouping up together, and this is going to mean that GeForce doesn't really have as good of an opportunity to try and disrupt this composition. Already, we're seeing them get pushed and taken over by this bunker, and this is exactly the kind of start that Budget HU needed. They're not allowing GeForce to pick them apart, right? Yeah, they're staying grouped up. This was a great choice by Budget HU, and not what I expected.
Yeah, now you actually see some more changes come out from GeForce. You see the Echo Mercy coming out from Ultimate Weapon, Angelic, respectively, into a double hit scan composition. Noxious and Demency are going to be theoretically more than prepared to deal with an airborne composition, but it's just one more DPS point, one more angle that Budget HU are going to have to deal with. Again, you're just trying to throw as many different threats in Budget HU's face as possible and make it impossible for them to shut down all of them.
And Demency out of the fight means that Ultima Web is going to have a little bit more free reign now. And that's going to yield a kill. Akawa already taken out by them via those sticky bombs. Noxious gone as well. And GeForce has done what they need to do on this first point in only 2 fights.
Yeah, a nice adjustment there from Ultima Web and Angelic. Again, just putting a new wrinkle into their strategy that Budget HU are going to have to try and adjust to. Wasn't quite able to do it in time for that first point, but on the second point, it is going to be a lot more difficult for Ultima Web to have as much control because of the closed-in ceilings. You can't fly quite as high, but GeForce do have the ultimates available to try and snowball this. They're going to have actually just about everything coming up in this next fight.
Budget HU, though, will have some tools of their own. That Supercharger and Gravitic Flux could be very, very useful for this squad. Hummy gonna open things up now with a Dragon Strike. That's gonna clear out that lane right there for GeForce. But the Deadeye combined with the Gravitic Flux going to get a kill onto Ultima Web. The res will come in, but in the meantime, that's gonna leave an opening for Akawa that they take advantage of, and they utilize it to get Hummy out of the fight. Ultima Web has the duplication, but wisely, GeForce has opted to just back out and try and regroup, because at this point, even if it's just one player down on second point, the spawn advantage is just too great to overcome.
Yeah, GeForce are having a lot of trouble being able to break through this choke point the Budget HU have. You don't really have a super strong tank or like a Reinhardt or something like that in order to just sort of bully Budget HU away. You have to try and finesse your way into an opening, like we just saw there with the Zenyatta going down.
Zen gonna be rezzed though. Noxious now swapping over to the Desperation Bastion, as I like to call it. 2 picks coming out in favor of GeForce, but Noxious does find one. That's going to be Angelic out of the fight, and the tides have turned in favor of Budget HU behind the burring gun of this mechanized Omnic known as Bastion.
Hey, I mean, you don't have to worry about boops if you can't be booped. A beautiful play there from Noxious in order to just put an end to GeForce. And again, back to square one here at this choke point. It is so difficult, again, for them to break through because they kind of have to funnel in to one of these choke points. Their composition loves to play spread apart, and Volskaya point B just doesn't really allow them to do that. These Budget HU are going to have a massive advantage with this double shield composition that loves to stick together. Now, of course, GeForce, they have just about every ultimate coming up once again in this fight. It's going to be 3 immediately, the duplicate and the flux coming up afterwards. Budget HU really only have the Deadeye to their names. Big Chef Dog coming very close to that Amp Matrix, but still about 20% away from that one.
To me, the key to this entire equation for GeForce is Ultima Web's duplication, because the sustain just isn't there for GeForce with this composition unless they duplicate a tank, I don't think. Couple of picks, though, now in favor of GeForce. If Angelic can get back to this fight, things could go very, very well for them. Budget HU now falling apart at the seams. Crispy going to be taken out of the fight, and that's going to be GeForce taking the point.
Very creative play there from GeForce. Is able to get around to the side, and again, just attack Budget HU from an angle that they weren't expecting. Even if you think you have checked off every single point of entry, GeForce will simply find a new one and bust in and take you down. GeForce with a respectable 2-minute time bank at the end of their Volskaya attack. And again, so what is Budget HU going to do? Again, if Havana and Blizzard World have anything to say about it, they're probably going to stay with these Orisa-based compositions, which opens itself up to, of course, the same problems that I've talked about a billion times at this point. I'm not going to bore you with that explanation again. But you do see some really nice mid-range DPS, at least from these initial picks. Budget HU has some time to change it. But I do like this overall. It's a pretty safe DPS lineup from Budget HU that should be able to deal with just about any kind of composition that D-Force come up with on this one. On the side of G-Force, though, Ultimate Wep is still on that Echo, but this time there is no Mercy to pair with it. That's going to give a lot more support to the tanks. It's going to keep Strider and anyhow up and healthy, but it's going to make Ultimate Wep much easier to take out when there isn't that consistent Mercy pocket.
The tension just continues to build as we head into another pause. This composition from GeForce is all about speed, right?
Yeah.
It's hurry up and wait, right? You could have called this composition a hurry up and wait, because they need to take their time getting their positioning right and making sure they've scouted out the right target. But then once they get the first kill, once they pounce, they need to get those kills in rapid succession because they don't have sustain, right? They just don't have sustain unless there's an ultimate online from Madero and Angelic. So GeForce needs to win these fights fast and decisively, and again, that's difficult with the kind of composition Budget HU is running. It's this high risk, high reward versus this very safe but plotting and slow composition. A really interesting duel of the styles, right, that we're seeing play out here. Budget HU are going to be able to get some nice high ground positioning, though, towards the side of the point. This is exactly what they're looking for. They've got control now over the Mega Health Pack as well. They're going to be able to start to proc percentage on the point. But now, the disruption starting to come in. Some of that damage starting to come in from multiple angles. But Strider goes down low, and again, because they don't have those big heals, they're forced to back out to a health pack, and that just allows more time for Budget HU to get set up.
Budget HU are in a pretty solid position here, but once again, Strider just slapping those tanks in the face. But as long as they can stay inside this Mega Health Pack room, this double shield composition is going to be happy. There really isn't anyone coming in from behind to challenge this. They're just trying to break in from the front. Again, GeForce, they've got to be able to take advantage of the multiple angles that their fight can provide, but I'm not sure if they have enough players online in order to properly contest this at this point.
It's going to be a last-ditch effort here from Strider, who does have the minefield mode. Madero's already out of the fight. If they do what I think is wisest here, they just hold on to these ultimates. They try and stall this point out as long as they can, but eventually give it over to Budget HU.
And 5 minutes now on the clock for Budget HU to try and push through on the point B, and 3 minutes to finish with a superior time bank. GeForce do have several ultimates available, everything except for the Valkyrie, of course, as Angelic is going to swap over to the Mercy to try and help out Ultimate Wep in the skies.
Tommy doing a beautiful job disrupting this bunker composition, getting them to a position they wish they weren't in. Ultimate Wep just about has this duplicate online, and once again, I think this is the key to this composition's equation. Strider going to roll in for a little bit of disruption. Ultimate Wep looking for a different angle to take. They land the sticky bombs, but no kill comes from it. Noxious gonna throw out the Dragon Strike, trying to clear some room as well, but GeForce, they're primed to be able to move. They can just get out of the way, and in the meantime, the minefield of Striders finds Noxious. So, Budget HU in a tough position because now they're forced to use the Amp Matrix to try and build up some of these other ults. It's going to be a Gravitic Flux, though, that continues to disrupt what Budget HU's trying to do, but look at this. They're sustaining through this. If they can outlast GeForce, they can get this point, but that might not be what happens, as Pummy has been able to open it up with a pick onto Akawa, and now AO3 is out of the fight.
Yeah, again, Budget HU, they just have to push through and get a really clean fight, but because of the scrappiness of this GeForce comp, it is very difficult, nearly impossible for Budget HU to get in and get a successful fight without losing a few members of their own. And because of the spawn advantage that GeForce has, even losing 1 or 2 members from Budget HU is just as good as a death sentence for that fight. And GeForce, I mean, look at the ult bank. They've done a fantastic job of keeping this healthy, keeping this keeping the ult advantage for themselves throughout this entire defensive point B so far.
Another Dragon Strike coming in, and I love the way that Pummy is using this to begin the disruption, right? They're making Budget HU scramble for safety, and in the meantime, that allows Strider to come in and try and pick somebody off who maybe picks an a worse way to try and kite away from this damage. Now, Strider looking for a pick onto Noxious, and Demency unable to find it at the moment, and that's enough time for Chef Big Dog to start to gain an advantage, get that ult online, and now things have been cracked wide open for Budget HU, but the minefield is there. It's going to take Noxious out of the fight. The res there as well, but both support ults have to be used by GeForce. In fact, they're left with just about nothing on the table. It's going to be a Gravitic Flux trying to keep things going for Budget HU. Pummy out of the fight. Things could be falling apart here for GeForce. Budget HU with an opportunity to potentially even equalize the time bank, but Demency is down.
Yeah, now all of a sudden, GeForce, they've got all their players back from spawn. They say all that for a drop of blood. You're not even gonna get a tick away from us, but Noxious is gonna try and do something about it. Takes off Pummy off the side, and that is going to be the first pick. Noxious now starting to come alive, takes out a second one, and now Budget HU, with the power of the Supercharger, are trying to take this.
Got what they need to do just that. Both, there's a support out of the equation. Madero swaps over to Lucio to try and stall things out. Budget HU primed to be able to finish this. Point right here, Demency on the Doomfist to get back to point and look for those one-pick potentials, and it is proving to be very, very valuable. They found what they need to do, but GeForce, in the meantime, doing a beautiful job stalling this out. How long can they last, though, is the question. Strider, about 70% to the mines, can anyhow get to point with this Gravitic Flux and launch it. They got it online, here it comes, but Demency again coming in huge. They've been the hero here for Budget HU. They're getting these picks, but they're not getting them as quick as they need to. GeForce staggering this out for over a minute, dividing. They will maybe eventually fall, but it's going to take forever.
Eventually, at some point, sometime in this day, they will be able to take it. My gosh, GeForce staggered that for like 90 seconds. I think Budget HU got the advantage in that fight when we're like 2:30 on the clock.
Yeah.
That was an insane stagger from GeForce in order to give themselves double the time bank going into these extra rounds. A much more significant advantage than they had going into at this point in Blizzard World. But again, it all is going to hinge on what Budget HU can do with this 1 minute of time. They were able to break through the GeForce defense pretty quickly last time, but this time GeForce are going to be sticking with that Echo Mercy from the very start. It has had a lot of success, and of course on this first point, Ultima Web is going to have so much room to work, as well as, of course, Strider, but we have talked about that at length over the course of this series. Budget HU, though, interestingly, are going to be going with Noxious, are opting to go for a bit of a flanker strategy instead of going with a more different strategy. And, of course, I've been tricked, baited, and bamboozled yet again. Noxious moves over onto what I thought was the safer option, going to be going over to the Hanzo to put some more pressure onto Ultima Web in the air, maybe anyhow on the ground. There's a lot of damage that Hanzo can unleash.
There certainly is.
And it was just for the Sonic Arrow. I've been bamboozled yet again.
I'm sorry.
Curse you, Noxious!
I'm sorry, Dividing. You just can't catch a break. Very early engagement coming out from GeForce, but this is to be expected. They want to try and build these ults as quickly as they can. And these rotations, right? That's when GeForce needs to strike. So, they weren't able to get a pick on that first rotation. They're going to be looking for an opportunity on this next one, but this is really going to be one of their last opportunities, too, because Budget HU is just about taken that prime positioning that they want. They've got it now. That Mega Health Pack under their control, and already Madero's out of the fight. Budget HU, they've done what they need to do here. They're starting to get a tick on board. The Resurrection will come in, and Madero comes out from the spawn back to the game and picks out Noxious on the flank. That is massive for GeForce. Overtime has been triggered now. They just need to see if they can snowball these picks in, but look at that! Strider taken out by Demency. Beautiful pick right there from the Cassidy. They're going to be able to pick out Ultima Web from the sky as well. Budget HU done what they need to do here on first point, just like they did it in their first engagement.
And caught in the middle of all of that craziness was Chef Big Dog with another fantastically quick Amp Matrix in order to help the team get set up and secured in that Mega Room, just like how they did it on their attack last time. And now Budget HU do have both DPS ultimates. Just Bigog is 70% of the way to yet another Ant Matrix. So much damage on that Baptiste.
Noxious falling initially again, but it's going to be traded out for Anyhow, who had the Gravitic Flux. The res will come in. Strider drops the Minefield to give the res a little bit more protection. It's going to be a beautiful play because Pummy's able to get a pick. Ultimate Weapon now with the Gravitic Flux. That's going to put the seal on that deal. Budget HU will not get a tick on second point, but they got first. That is a huge win condition.
Huge indeed. All Budget HU have to do is hold G-Force to point A for the next 2 minutes in order to take ourselves to a tiebreaker map 5 with the reverse sweep in the balance. This is insane from Budget HU. They seem to be doing just enough, adjusting just enough in order to take out the members of G-Force and sort of play. They've really figured out how to match up well to G-Force's style of play. Again, G-Force are the kind of team that are going to run what they run. They kind of have that one play style that they throw in your face and force you to try to adjust to. Many teams are not able to do it in time, and Budget HU, as of right now, if they can hold this here, they might have been able to adjust just enough. And that is a mark of a fantastic team.
It is. It absolutely is. And I'm going to continue to sing Budget HU's praises right now because early on I had mentioned that I wanted to see them play the swap game a little bit more, right? Now, that's not the only option. The other option is to adjust your play style to counter the other composition, and that is what they're doing instead. And it is working out beautifully. This team knows themselves, and it is showing. And I have to admire them for that. You've got to sing their praises. You've got to give them credit, because right now, they are showing that potentially Slow and Steady can win the race. Strider gonna go in to cause a little bit of disruption early on. That's gonna lead to an early pick by Madero. This could be Budget HU falling apart here. They had the sustain, but it's gone with Chef Big Dog out of the equation, and Akawa desperately needed those heals, and they just weren't there. Ultimate Web taking advantage of that, and G-Force captures this even quicker than they did the first time around.
My goodness, the third DPS for G-Force, Madero, comes in clutch on that one, cracking the point open. And all of a sudden now, Budget HU, we were singing their praises just a moment ago, but with a minute 30 still on the clock, G-Force are going to have 2 opportunities to put a seal, a stamp of victory on this series. If they could just break into point B, which they did have a lot of trouble with the first time around, have they learned anything from their first go?
The crucial difference, though, is it took them 2 fights to break into point B the first time. This only took them 1. That means they've got the ult advantage. Nothing coming on board for Budget HU. This minefield from Striders needs to be big. It's gonna be put over the back left corner of the point. That's going to corral Budget HU into an unenviable position. They've already had to use the Immortality Field. Amplification Matrix is out. Can G-Force get this win right here? This could be their best opportunity, but Pummy is down. They just about had that Dragon Strike out, and that could have been combined beautifully. The res is there, though. If they can get this Flux Dragon Strike online, especially now that Crispy's out of the fight, this could be absolutely massive. Here comes Anyhow. The Transcendence is out, and Crispy doesn't have the rally. This is all but over.
Oh, my goodness.
There's no one left, and G-Force will get the upset and send Budget HU down to the lower bracket, and they have secured themselves a spot in the grand finals and at least $1,000 of prize money.
Yet another team falls to the G-Force composition. Budget HU looked like they just might have had it figured out, but G-Force come up clutch when it matters. Even if you think you have it figured out, it only takes one of these incredibly mechanically skilled players on G-Force to just pop off for you to win, for them to come through and win the game. We have lost Juggernaut's camera. Is Juggernaut still here? I think we might have lost Juggernaut. Okay. So, guess it's just up to me here. So, first of all, congratulations to Budget HU. They did a fantastic job against a very, very skilled team that has been one of the staples of Tier 3 for the last 6 months or so. Just a little bit more, and I think they would have had the stuff to be able to take it to a map 5. But it is not enough this time around. Budget HU will drop down to the losers bracket. They're going to have to fight down there in order to get themselves a chance. And GeForce have given themselves a spot in the winners finals, a top 3 placement, at least an open division. And I mean, when you look at this team's accolades, they have quite a bit. All-Star Brawl, Community Blast, Latency, Questline, Natter Community Bash. Adding open division to that list, that'd be pretty cool. But that is going to do it for this first series. We are going to have a losers bracket matchup, I believe, coming up after this one. So don't go anywhere. That is going to be coming up after this one with 2 teams on the verge of elimination going head to head.
After an upset in the upper bracket, Dividing and I have now taken a trip to the lower, where there is no shortness of excitement either. We've got Solstice Gaming going up against none other than Boston's finest in, I believe this is round 12? Round 11 of the lower bracket.
It has been quite the road down here. Just a real grind to make it out of what has been an absolute gauntlet of really good teams that get sent down to the lower bracket. But there is a little bit of congratulations in order for both Solstice and Boston's finest for making it to the top 8 by making it to this point. It is a huge overall achievement in Open Division, so congratulations to both of them. Both teams clearly have a ton of talent on their roster to get them to this point. Starting, of course, with Boston's finest, which is, of course, led and named after their main tank, Infected, someone who is really well known in the Tier 3 and even Tier 2 communities.
You're absolutely right. This squad made up of quite a lot of Bay State, a top-tier collegiate team. Now, they've got a lot to prove here. Yes, they've been able to run the gauntlet in the collegiate world, but can they bring that same success here to Open Division, where the stakes are arguably higher and the competition is certainly tighter? Now, Solstice Gaming, they were the 22 seed here, so already they have outperformed expectations and then some. In addition, this is the highest they have made it in Open Division ever. So, regardless of how this finishes for them, they've proved what they need to prove, which is that they can make it deep into this competition. Can they make it further? That's the big question. Both of these teams, they have what it takes, I think, to make... Well, they've already made a very deep run in the lower bracket, but they absolutely have a chance to make it into the grand finals. So this is going to be a very exciting match.
Yeah, Solstice does a really... Solstice, much like GeForce, has been in the Tier 3 scene, the Tier 3 community, for a little while. They have been around. They have kept the same general core throughout that time frame. But unlike GeForce, they haven't had quite the just resounding success that GeForce has had. They've always been there. They've always been a solid team, but they've always been a team that's kind of bowed out in the top 8 of these Tier 3 tournaments, top 4, something along those lines. And now it seems like when they really need to, this team is really rising to the occasion in order to really break barriers and find new ceilings for themselves. So I'm already super happy to see where this team stands at this point in Open Division, especially up against a fantastic challenge in Boston's finest.
Yeah, they're going to be a tough team to go up against. Now, most recently we saw Boston's finest in Natter's Beta Bash.
Right.
One of the reasons I want to bring this up is because that was 5v5, right? That was Overwatch 2. So my big question here is, have they made the adjustments back to Overwatch 1 that are going to be necessary to take them through the upper echelons of Open Division? Now, if they're able to do that and land themselves a spot in contenders, of course, they're going to be back in that 5v5. So, they're playing both sides of the coin here, which, if they can do it successfully, might be a huge boon to them. But first, before any of that, they got to make their way through Solstice.
Yeah, of course, they've got to make their way through Solstice. They've got to make their way through this match, which is going to be starting off on Ilios. A really interesting first map pick coming out from... I actually don't know. I don't think either team picked this one. This was just from the rules of the matchup. But this actually offers a lot of really interesting compositions for potentially a dive-heavy kind of setup, maybe a flyer-heavy setup, a far echo kind of deal. Like on comps like on Ruins, it becomes very important for you to be able to cross a lot of ground really quickly.
It does, right? And that ground being covered means that ground that you have to cover means that snipers can just have a field day on a map like Ruins. So, true to the nature of any and all good control maps, lots of different options depending on the submap that we go to, and even potentially within the submaps that we see.
Yeah, there is a lot of interesting plays and counterplays that can be brought out here on both sides. Like we've mentioned before, I'm really curious to see where Solstice stands right now because this is a team that I really haven't watched in a little while. Meanwhile, I saw Boston's Finest play. I actually cast one of their games in the Natters Beta Clash, and they did a very good job in that game. I was really impressed by them. But there is a bit of a synergy difference here because Boston's Finest, I believe they only formed initially for that Natters Beta Clash. It's a bit of a tongue twister.
It's hard to say.
Say that 5 times. Say that 5 times fast, chat. Oh
So
my gosh. I get paid to talk. Why is this happening to me? Okay.
I gotta tell you, Dividing. I don't know if you know this, but I warm up with tongue twisters. That's part of my my vocal warm up that I do, and it still threw me off despite doing that. I still tripped up on it as well. So
Okay.
you know, no big fault to you for that. I think by any stretch of the imagination, but. The gates have been opened. We've got a 6-man dive going up against a disruption composition very similar to what we saw coming out from Strider and the rest of the GeForce crew. So, a couple of very interesting different looks here as they both start to make their way to the point. Looks like Solstice is going to get there first, but Boston's Finest hot on their tail today, taking a lot of damage and eventually just deleted by Depresso. Neb gonna find Frenok as well, and Solstice unable to get point control or any kills in this first engagement.
Boston's Finest are playing this ultra-fast rush composition. Many people call it the zombie comp because you all just surge forward at once.
Yes.
Mostly once Xcal gets a hack off onto one of the members of Solstice, the goal is to just everyone jump on top of them at once and burst them down before anything can be done. Solstice, in the meanwhile, are playing a bit of a slower composition in comparison that's going to really play around Snarl and Lament, playing around the sides and trying to get some damage off from different angles.
It's going to be Hune that falls first, though, and Lambit having a hard time staying alive as well. They're likely out of the fight looking for a health pack at the moment. Snap does have this Pulse Bomb ready, but with Hune out of the fight still, might not be the best time to use it. They are going to get a stick, taking Infected out of the fight. That is actually a massive pick, but gotta be equalized by Depresso, who finds out Snarl shortly after completing that pick onto Infected, who has already respawned, and in the meantime, Boston's Finest still holding on to this point. Solstice hasn't been able to snowball these picks into further picks, and thus a fight win.
I'd love to see Lament go really aggressive with this EMP here, because Xcal does have it on the other side, but Xcal gets rid of that EMP first and comes up huge with it. Solstice actually uses the EMP and the mines to try and hold on to that point, but it is just not enough. They were not aggressive enough with it, and Boston's Finest are just outpacing Solstice right now, playing at a tempo that Solstice are having so much trouble matching. And even though they're coming back with both support ultimates almost online, they have to hurry because it's 90% and counting for Boston's Finest.
Solstice has just one more opportunity to try and take this map. Xcal putting in a lot of damage to today. They go down to a very low health. They're going to be caught out by Neb and Xcal. It's looking pretty bad for Solstice. They have to touch. Eventually, they're going to be able to. Frenok frantically gets the Transcendence out. Joey gets hacked before they can get the rally online. They're taken out by Depresso's Death Blossom. Beautiful timing from Boston's Finest. And that is a convincing 100-0 for this first sub-map.
You could not tell me that Boston's Finest is a team that's only been together for like maybe 2 or so months. They played that 6-man rush comp with such good synergy. The second that they decided who they were going to jump on top of, they all were on top of them immediately. Solstice just could not keep up with the tempo that Boston's Finest were putting out there. Of course, this is, a team with many players that have experience with each other, like we said on Base State. But still, adding in new players and new elements could easily have mess things up for the Boston's Finest synergy. Doesn't seem to have done it at all. So now as we move on to Solstice are going to respect the gameplay of Boston's Finest and play a very similar comp of their own. It's the only difference here is going to be Snarl is going to be staying on that Tracer pick. I think this is probably a comfort pick there for the DPS player on Solstice.
It certainly could be. It could also be designed to try and be a thorn in Xcal's side. You know, if they're able to keep Xcal from getting a hack off from finding that value, then that could really shut down what Boston's Finest is trying to do. Just going to be a matter of time, though, to see if that's going to be the case. As Lambent does get hacked, so that's going to be a tough thing for them to try and shake off, but they're able to do it. Solstice Gaming trying to push on to point, but Boston's Finest has a good control of the choke. The positioning a little bit stronger right now, and that's going to yield them first point possession, despite really not hardly any picks coming in, at least until now.
Yeah, now Boston's Finest are going to start pushing forward with this composition. Solstice, though, they don't want to give this up so easily. The Coalescence is going to be committed here from Frenok. Shut down by the EMP, though, and Boston's Finest surge ahead.
Yeah, just phenomenally timed EMP and placed EMP right there, taking out 5 members, or hacking 5 members of Solstice. And one of the differences that I've seen so far that I want to highlight dividing is the coordination. The coordination on Boston's Finest side has just been so far head and shoulders above Solstice.
Basically flawless almost.
Yeah.
It's been crazy.
And Solstice, their timing has been off. Joey gonna commit the sound barrier now, though, in response to that Death Blossom from Depresso. It's gonna be Lambits that lands and gets the pick, and this gonna be the first fight win for Solstice. They may have started to gain their footing and figure some of this out right here.
Yeah, nice aggressive play there from Solstice. Once again, Boston's Finest have been playing at such a quick pace, and Solstice's only shot, as long as they are playing kind of this mirror, is to try and match Boston's Finest and exceed them. Tempo is the name of the game here, and Neb is actually going to commit the beat in order to try and keep themselves on this point for longer and force more ultimates out of Solstice. And it seems to be working quite well, as Neb is going to get a second boop off of this fight. The Lucio player from Boston's Finest has gotten them back into this one.
This is Solstice fight to lose, and it appears as if they've practically done just that. Another EMP comes in. That's going to land, but Frenok's Coalescence going to still find value, but the Death Blossom of Depressos just can't be stopped. The momentum swung back in favor of Boston's Finest, and despite Solstice clawing their way back in that penultimate fight, it will be Boston's Finest who ends up on top and is going to eventually take this first map on Ilios.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost certainly done at this point. It's really easy to it's really easy to stagger onto points when it comes to Well, so Solstice are going to be able to technically stay alive for a while here, but that overtime wick is going to burn faster and faster, and it's finally just too fast for Solstice to keep up with. Boston's Finest with a 200-0 sweep of Ilios.
Yeah, that was a tremendous showing from Boston's Finest, and right now, Solstice, I unfortunately have to say they're looking a little bit outclassed right now.
Yeah.
The coordination from Boston's Finest right now is it's just better than Solstice's. There's no other way to say it, unfortunately. And Solstice, I think they need to tighten up their potentially their communications, but certainly their gameplay if they're hoping to come back into this. But it will be their map pick, so they have that going for them into this next engagement. They can pick something that favors their more chaotic playstyle.
Yeah, and I don't want to be too hard on Solstice yet. We're just one map in. Ilios was pre-picked, and it is a map that kind of forced them to play into that kind of divey, not really divey, but rushy, like high tempo composition mirror. Maybe that's just not quite where their strengths lie. Maybe they have something else in the pocket, maybe just like a more traditional brawl, double bubble, double shield, something a little bit slower where they can really get set up off of each other. And whatever map they pick will hopefully be able to play to those strengths. And Boston's Finest, while they may have looked really, really good in the mirror, maybe Solstice will be able to throw something at them that kind of makes them hesitate for a little bit more. Like I've said in the past, Boston's Finest are a team that hasn't been together for too long, so theoretically it should be easier to confuse them and break up that synergy.
What I'm expecting to see out of Solstice now is a map pick that's going to favor their tendency to play double main tank, right? This isn't a look that you see too terribly often, but with a team that has such a long history together, as does Solstice, playing the double main tank can absolutely work. It requires a little bit more coordination, requires a little more synergy, and I think it also requires a little bit more trust in your teammates, in your tanks, because typically a double main tank look is going to be a very aggressive style, right? Because you're not going to have that off tank there to help cover your flanks, to help support, the back line or the DPS.
Yeah.
So I'm anticipating they're going to come out with this double main tank look now. Whether or not that's going to be a Wrecking Ball and Winston, which I think would be my preference to see out of them, given their propensity for a chaotic playstyle, or something like a Ryan Orisa. It's just yet to be seen, but that's where my money is right now in terms of what Solstice is going to try and do to counteract what has been a dominant performance so far from Boston's Finest.
Yeah, I'd love to see the double main tank come out for them. Of course, it was mentioned. It is something that they do like to do. I don't know if that's going to happen on Gibraltar, which is where Solstice are going to be taking us next. But I do like this map because it is a map that does force teams to play a little slower and slow that tempo down because of all the high ground that the attackers have to take into consideration every time they try and go for an attack. You can't just rush in willy-nilly like Boston's Finest were on Ilios. You have to really plan out your engages, plan out how you're going to use your ultimates and on who. And maybe that kind of game is where Solstice can really shine.
And now I'm absolutely expecting to see the Wrecking Ball and Winston composition come out here, right? Because again, they like the double main tank. Watch Point Gibraltar, a dive map. This is a perfect situation for it. We might see Bulldozer come out, which is, of course, the Reinhardt Winston composition, but I think that's less likely. I think that's a lot less likely. Yeah,
Reinhardt would just sit there on the low ground and just get peppered from damage from above and just be like, "Oh, why me?"
I could see it on third point, though. I could see it on third point, not necessarily first or second, but I could absolutely see swapping to that on third, right? Because that's where the cart presence becomes a lot more important, but you do still want to have that high ground presence. So splitting between the high ground where Winston can thrive and the low ground in the close quarters where Ryan is going to be important, I think could serve them well on third point. But we're just going to have to wait and see. It's going to be Boston's Finest on defense first.
Yeah, Boston's Finest is going to be setting up here. I'm trying to figure out what they're playing to space up the silhouettes in the background. I saw a Wrecking Ball being put out there and a Sigma. So yeah, this is going to be, like we said, Boston's Finest slowing it down a little bit. Infected, of course, is just going to be trying to cause havoc on the Wrecking Ball, trying to disrupt Solstice. We saw plenty of that last series. While X-Cow and Infernal will get set up on this high ground and try and take shots from the safety of that Sigma shield. Solstice, though, are going to be going with a double bubble composition. Kind of two eras of Overwatch going on here. Where today is going to be trying to slowly but surely gain space with the jumps and the Zarya bubbles.
I've got to give the advantage here to Solstice, I think. At least on paper. I would have preferred to see Infernal on the D.Va here. Again, just because of the high ground presence that needs to be kept here. I'm not sure that Sigma is going to, one, have the sustain, and two, just have the utility that you necessarily need when going up against a composition like Solstice is throwing at you. And look at this, today, already 70% to that Primal Rage. Make it 80. If they can get out with their lives, which won't be the case this time around, it could have been an absolutely brutal first push from Solstice, but they're going to have to wait and try again.
Hey, but not only does today almost have that Primal Rage online, Frenock is 12% away from a nano boost of their own, and that is the real kicker here for Solstice. Being able to get that ultra powerful dive powered up with that nano boost and maybe chain that into a Primal Rage. Okay, maybe we're gonna go the other way around. Primal Rage into nano boost, but either way, it's just today putting so much damage, so much disruption into Boston's Finest, and Infernal goes down early. Without the shield of that Sigma, the rest of Boston's Finest has to scatter for answers.
And this is what I was worried about with Boston's Finest, right? Infernal is kind of the odd man out in this composition. Not necessarily always in this composition, but on this map, I think, with this composition, that that combination, I think, it's going to make it a little bit difficult for him. Andy and Neb both forced to use their support ultimates to try and stay in this fight. Snarl going to be able to loose that Dragon Strike. Yun almost had the Graviton Surge online, but unable to get it out. And with that, Boston's Finest is able to reclaim control of the cart at the last moment here on first point.
I'm a little disappointed that Snarl actually let go of the Dragon Strike there.
Yeah,
Andy
me too.
used the Transcendence in desperation to try and get Boston's Finest back onto the point.
Oh, X-Cow!
Oh my gosh, that was insane. But like I was saying, Hyun and Snarl could have easily linked up there with the the grab Dragon Strike combo. Would have been, I mean, assuming Infernal doesn't eat it, an easy fight win, an easy point A, because there was no defensive ultimates to counter it on the other side. Maybe another example of Solstice just being a little bit out of sync in this one. But they do still have the grab and the rally to work with in this fight.
They absolutely do, and with Snarl getting a pick onto Andy, things have been opened up. X-Cal gonna be forced to use that Bob to try and add a little bit more presence on the point, but Neb is down too, so there's no supports left for Boston's Finest. Infected loses the minefield to try and slow down the progression on point, maybe give a little time for reinforcements to get there, but the picks come in too quick, and Solstice will cap.
Yeah, nicely done there from Hyun, just kind of luring Boston's Finest into that little side room and then taking away the grab,
nice
locking
staggers.
them in there. A great stop there from them to really open things up from Solstice. And yeah, because of that stagger now, Solstice are going to be able to really challenge for this high ground, try and get on top of this spaceship, which is one of the strongest high grounds in all of Overwatch.
I'd argue it is the strongest high ground in all of Overwatch, not even one of. It is an absolute nightmare to try and dislodge a defensive composition, or whichever composition gets there first. Today, though, they will get infected, but they find themselves in an unenviable position after that. Boston's Finest going to put a lot of pressure on the remaining members in there, courtesy of Andy's Transcendence. That means Boston's Finest doesn't have to worry about their lives again. It's just a shooting gallery, and with that, Solstice, they've given up that much sought over and sought after high ground position because I think of a little bit of over-aggression from today.
Just a little bit, and now all of a sudden Boston's Finest are going to be able to take control of that high ground. Look at everyone from Boston's Finest up there on the spaceship, because you know that X-Cal is just going to have so much ability to poke away at Solstice as they try and squeeze in through these four tiny doors.
Oh, wow. Beautiful pulse bomb. Gonna take Joey out of the fight. Today, still gonna pop the Primal Rage to see if they can turn this around. Lambent gonna be able to get a kill, as is Today, but isn't gonna be enough because Boston's Finest was able to strike first. Infected finds Lambent, and despite a couple of great picks there and a lot of resources expended, Boston still comes out on top.
Yeah, Boston used by far less ultimates in that fight and came out ahead in it anyways. They now have 4 ultimates, the high ground, every advantage in the book right now to throw at Solstice as they try and make another push yet again. And this is kind of where the double bubble stalls a little bit. It does take a little bit of time to set up, and while that's going on, Boston's Finest are already putting in damage.
That they are. Nano Boost has been committed, though, by Frenok. That's going to be a supercharged teammate, but in the meantime, the picks are still coming in favor of Boston's Finest. The coordination just a little bit too strong still.
This could be their big chance, though. Solstice are about to come up on that Dragon Strike grab combo from Snarl and Hyun. I kind of bashed on them a little bit because they weren't able to link up on it before. This time around, they could very well do it. And if that's not enough damage, you could, of course, throw the Pulse Bomb into that grab as well if you really wanted to seal the deal. Solstice should have that available as long as they can take out Andy, and they do. What a shot from Snarl. Take away the only really big threat to winning this fight.
The last thing they have to worry about is Infernal and that defense matrix. If they can neutralize it either by pulling it out and just making sure it's on cooldown before they throw that grab, or just getting them out of mech, this could quickly go Solstice's way, but they need to make that happen fast, because Bob has already been committed on point. Now, has to force themselves to take it out. Here comes the Graviton Surge. There's the Dragon Strike. An anti-nade from Frenok might have been what needed to happen, though, for Solstice. And I think that over the Dragon Strike could be what yields them this point. But look at this, Depresso and Andy coming back. Frenok with another big anti-nade, though. If they make it through here, it's gonna be on the back of the support. Infected finds a pick on the Snarl. That's overtime. Nobody touches!
No, why? Today was there. He had the primal rage. He had all the health in the world to keep it contested, and jumped off. It must have been just a hair too early. He was on the point. I saw him. I wasn't paying that much attention to the clock, but it must have been just before that 3-second mark. And Solstice, after using so many ultimates, it looked like they might have had enough to get through it. Now all of a sudden, a very winnable position for Boston's Finest to get themselves up to series point. Oh man, that's a tough one to come back from.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. That really is. Solstice had that fight. It was gonna be scrappy. They were gonna have to still play to the top of their ability, but given them not making any mistakes, that was theirs. And unfortunately, the mistake is exactly what happened. So now they find themselves in a winnable position, but it could have been so much easier for them.
Yeah. Yeah, Solstice do have several points in the map that they could hold Boston's Finest at. Like I said, very defensively favored map because of the high grounds they have. They could play around both on point A and point B. So while Boston's Finest do get to avoid the third phase of Gibraltar today, this could still be quite the challenge here. As well as Infected going up on the Wrecking Ball still is going to sacrifice the safety of the bubble for the mobility of the Wrecking Ball.
The pick has worked out for them pretty well so far, and at least in Overwatch 1, Wrecking Ball is still generally considered a stronger pick than Winston. Definitely not the case in 2, but that's not where we are at the moment, and today has found that out the hard way, as they're going to be the first to go down. Now, sight set on Hyun. They go down to a little under half health. Frenok throwing in as much healing and disruption as they can on the Ana, and again, they were such a huge part of that final push for Solstice that I'm not surprised to see them having a big effect here again already. They've been a shining star for this squad.
Boston's Finest, though, they really want to push up on this high ground. Look at them. They've really taken control of the blue box here, and now are going to have a free high ground vantage to push down onto Solstice. Today has to hide in a corner just to barely stay alive. But Frenok does have the nano boots available, and there's the dive from today, and he had no chance.
No, we're going to see the nano boost committed now. Believe that one went on to Lambent rather than today. Gonna yield them results, but now ults are coming online for Boston's Finest. Solstice will have some of their own, so it's gonna be up to who uses them best.
Yeah, it does gonna come down. Solstice will have both DPS ults, also both tank. Okay, never mind. So I'm looking through the list. Solstice has everything except for the nano boost ready, and Neb goes down immediately. That is huge healing loss for Boston's Finest. You're just running on Zen heals at this point, and there's no way Depresso is gonna be able to stay alive on that one. Infected uses the mind, but it is all for naught as Boston's Finest continue to be pushed back and potentially staggered back. Infernal and Infected can't get away in time. Solstice now have had the chance to build up to these ultimates. They won that with just the Pulse Bomb.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to have 5 ultimates and possibly Frenok getting that nano boost back online. Boston's Finest has 4 ults of their own, however, both DPS ults and both support ultimates. This is going to be an explosive one.
It certainly is. This Grav Dragon, I think, is gonna be the key for Solstice, if they can get it online, but they have to try and pull out these support ultimates first. Today, with the Primal Rage, trying to do just that, but Depresso finds Snarl, so half of that equation is gone. They needed to take out that win condition, and they've done just that. Joey trying to keep their team alive now with the rally, and that was a boon for Hyun, who had gone down very low. They throw out the Grav right before they die. Nanobo's committed to today, but I think this was the wrong move. Snarl throws in the Dragon Strike to try and turn it around, but oh my gosh, they put too much into that fight. I think they just shot themselves in the foot dividing.
They were waiting, trying so hard to get Andy to use her Transcendence before they let the Grav Dragons go. But they waited just too long to do something. Boston's Finest pushed in, They squeezed away the space that Solstice had, and now they don't have Grab Dragons anymore, and Andy still has the Transcendence to potentially push this across the finish line. A huge miscalculation for Solstice that could cost them this map, unless we get a huge pick from Lament here. Oh, actually, Snao is actually going to open things up with another clutch headshot onto Nev, so there's going to be no rally for Boston's Finest for the moment.
They are going to throw the self-destruct to try and clear a little bit of rim, and that's going to allow Infernal to take out Lambit. Depresso finds Today as well, and Boston's Finest just continuing their march through Watchpoint Gibraltar. They got stymied up on first point, but second point is going their way very quickly. Solstice has to regroup fast, but I don't know if they've got time to do that. The Minefield did a tremendous amount of work. In fact, they're continuing to get the kills that they need. Solstice unable to get back in this fight. This is all over. Boston's Finest was going to go up 2-0 in this series.
Victory.
And now you start to worry a little bit if you're a Solstice fan. If you can't win the fast game and you can't win the slower game, where do you come out on top here if you're Solstice? Boston's Finest seems to have the leg up on you in just about every aspect. Of course, you are able to put up a decent fight. I will argue that if Today had waited an extra second or so before jumping off of the point, we could have seen a completely different game here where they got a pretty decent push onto point C, but that is not the reality we are living in right now. Solstice now have to really go back to the drawing board here, try to figure out what advantage can we try to exploit to take ourselves back into the series.
They're going to have a few minutes to think about that, as we are going to throw it to a short break. So, while we ponder, they ponder, and you ponder, we will be right back. Solstice Gaming has found themselves with their back against the wall, and they are going to take that back against the wall of Kings Row to try and turn this series around and gun for the reverse sweep, dividing Do you think this is the right pick from this squad, or do you think this is just going to play further into Boston's finest hands?
Well, I mean, if you're going to put your back up against a wall, there is no better place than Kings Row. There are, of course, many walls on Kings Row to put your back up against. A lot of narrow corridors, a lot of short range compositions. I think this is a good pick for Solstice just because it allows them to take Boston's finest to yet another kind of play style where now, unlike Ilios and Gibraltar, you don't have as much room to work. Of course, there are plenty of teams that will still play the wrecking ball based compositions and try and continue to play that disruption style. But if I am Solstice, I am hoping that they're going to play into the short range compositions, into that brawl. Maybe that's where you're feeling confident here. Maybe we see the double main tank that we were talking about. Maybe that's kind of the secret weapon that Solstice are hoping to pull out.
I'm hoping to see that bulldozer composition. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's gonna be their best bet, and I think you can see that kind of favoritism towards that double main tank playstyle kind of leaking through into what we've seen so far. Because a double main tank typically plays very aggressively, and the Solstice, I think they've when they've made a mistake, it's because it's been because of over aggression, and I think that's just maybe a preference into that double main tank playstyle leaking through into a more balanced play with an off tank. So that's what I want to see here from them. Not sure if that's what we're going to get because again, Kings Row to me is a comfort pick. Yeah. And when you're making a comfort pick like that, you may be doing the same thing with your composition. And if there's one place where you're gonna go meta, it's gonna be Kings Row.
You know, you'd think so, but at this point, I wouldn't put it past anyone to play anything anywhere. I mean, we are just in the wild west of Overwatch right now. Overwatch League is playing on Overwatch 2, so we can't really look at them as a guidebook as to what's meta. Everyone's just kind of playing what works best for them. So I am just hoping that Solstice is going to take things their own way. Don't feel pressured by whatever Boston's finest throws at you. Play what you are most comfortable with personally. And hey, maybe that will be the thing that really throws Boston's finest off of their game. Like I've said, Boston's finest do seem to have the mechanical advantage in most cases. You just got to find that one scenario, though, where you have the advantage. You just force Boston's finest to play that over and over and over again. And that's how you win.
It is. But we're going to have to wait for just a moment to see if that's exactly how things are going to play out. We're having a few technical difficulties here in the booth, so we're actually just going to throw it to a quick break, see if we can get those sorted out. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back just as quick as we can. We have taken care of the technical difficulties. We're back. We're ready to get into this. We're not going to keep you waiting any longer for what is our third and potentially final match here. Solstice Gaming has anything to say about it, though. We're going all the way to map 5 dividing.
Yeah, once again, Kings Row is where we are going to be going. If you're just joining us right now, Boston's Finest has won the battle of the 6-man rush comps on Ilios, the battle of the slower divey comps on Gibraltar, and Solstice is hoping that the battle of the traditional brawl comps, or, whatever they end up running, is going to be where they can find their advantage. And here it is. We've been wanting to see it the whole time, ever since we were told they did it. Looks like Solstice are going to be running out on the Reinhardt Winston composition, that double main tank that might just be the wrinkle that throws Boston's Finest off their game.
This is exactly what I was hoping to see out of Solstice. I think we're going to see more success from them here with the Bulldozer composition. That is the Reinhardt Winston main tank lineup. We're going to see them drop immediately. Infected gets a pick very quickly onto Andy. That is huge. That's exactly what you want to see out of this. But the picks coming in huge in favor of Boston's Finest right now. Today was able to get that initial pick, but it's not going to yield the fight win that they needed. But I'm liking this more.
You did lose Andy to start off, so Boston's Finest are going to back off and give Solstice some more space so they can get their Baptiste back. That's going to give Solstice the room to work.
Wow. Lambit eliminated immediately. Snell falls them shortly thereafter. Infected is down, but the question is, has the damage already been done? Can Solstice come back from this? Today throws out the Shatter, but all they're going to find at the end of that is their demise.
That is tough. Boston's Finest were able to get Andy back just in time to sustain through that one. But Solstice do still have a short window of opportunity where they're going to have both support ultimates ready. Nev, of course, just used that beat, so is not going to be able to counter it. But Boston's Finest does have just about everything else. 5 ultimates coming up for them.
Plays are going to be thrown out initially. Lambit does find a pick onto Infected, though. Joey pops the sound barrier to try and allow them push on the point with more aggression even than they already have. Xcal does find Today with the Deadeye, but this is still going the way of Solstice Gaming, and this Bulldozer composition has done just that to what is left of Boston's Finest.
Lament's Doomfist is always kind of a high-risk, high-reward character. That time around, it was the reward. Those one-shot punches, thanks to those copious surfaces to punch someone into, just makes your day if you're a Doomfist player. And Lament really opened things up. Is going to change on to the Reaper now. So with the Cassidy Reaper from Solstice, Infected's shield is going to feel like paper. It's going to break basically instantly if they just go for a full-scale front assault.
Which is what they're going to do with a composition like this. Snell already able to take out Infected as that shield did not last long at all. And look, this is exactly what the Bulldozer composition is designed to do. You get picks so fast that the sustain doesn't even have time to take effect.
Yeah.
And Solstice, again, takes the fight win. They'll continue through the Streets of Kings.
Yeah, we're seeing a few small adjustments from Boston's Finest. Xcal is going to move over to the Sombra and Andy onto the Moira. Faster heroes that are hopefully going to be able to keep everyone alive faster if you're Andy. And, of course, Xcal being able to get value out of those hacks.
Today throws out the Shatter. Nobody gonna fall to the ground this time, though. Nev has the sound barrier in case things get hairy for Boston's Finest. Gun is hacked and Today's out of the fight. This is going to be Boston's Finest taking control of this card, as there's no real defensive resources that Solstice can take advantage of in this composition.
Yeah, Today just went a little bit too far, got a little bit too confident after using the Shatter, and ends up losing their life because of it. So even though you're playing double main tank, this composition will not live very long if you don't have the Reinhardt. And Boston's Finest now, with 6 ultimates on board, if they're smart with this, they could potentially just roll this to a hole.
Shatter gonna come in from Infected, not gonna find any targets. Joey is there with the sound barrier. That combined with the Coalescence going to allow Solstice to get very aggressive. Depresso tries for the Death Blossom, but there's just too much damage. Infernal back in their mech, but it might not matter because Infected is down as well. And Infernal follows them shortly thereafter. Solstice again doing just a beautiful job with this Bulldozer.
Yeah, and Boston's Finest used 5 ults in that fight, and they were just
Wow.
always on the back foot because of how quickly Solstice was on top of them. Like you said, the Bulldozer comp, they only really used the Primal Rage and the support ultimates.
Yeah.
But now XCal, the one ult they have, is looking to be the only one they need.
Hune goes down very low. That with the Death Blossom coming out from Lambent, going to be able to save the day. As Infected and Andy go down, they have not long for this world either, and despite Depresso finding one onto Lambent, the damage was already done, and Solstice will cap second.
Beautiful job there from Solstice. I have froze my screen. My screen is frozen. Has your screen frozen, Jungle God?
It has. I am starting to
Okay.
hear sounds from the game, though. So, you know, we've got the ASMR version right now going for you of Open Division. And
do.
from what I can tell, yeah, that's a Shatter landing probably
Yes.
from Infected. Just gonna go ahead and guess that Snarl with the
There's a
Deadeye.
High Noon.
Yep, sounds like it might have found something. Coalescence, I believe, just came in as well. I gotta be honest, this is kind of fun to try and do. A little bit of an exercise.
This is a little bit
Yeah.
of an interesting exercise, trying to figure out what's going on from the audio cues.
Yeah.
But we are going to go to. I think we're going to continue the ASMR stream right now.
Ooh, Death Blossom.
Yeah, I did hear Death Blossom. We're having our observer restart their feed real quick to make sure that we can actually get the game to you. The game might still be going on. I'm not actually fully sure if we pause it or not. But we'll be getting the game to you as soon as possible. Very apologies for the technical difficulties. Trying to work through it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that we are. And, you know, I believe in our production crew. I think they'll be able to take care of this very, very quickly. So dividing, given what we just heard, that sounded to me as though
I have no idea who won that fight. I have zero clue.
Given the ultimates that I heard going off, it sounded to me as though Boston's Finest was able to kind of weather some of the storm, but I think Solstice won the fight. Yeah, and in fact, we're gonna see Solstice just about having the cart on the door of victory. Boston's Finest eventually able to sustain, though. They got a couple of
ults
ultimates,
for
too.
Solstice coming up on this one. Solstice have the tools right now to push through and potentially get this to the end.
Deadeye from Snarl, not gonna find anything this time around today, pushing forward now. Hune jumps in with the Primal Rage. Stun coming out onto Frennick and Snarl. That's gonna take him very low. XCal doing a good job of taking advantage of that. Now we've got both Coalescence out there. It's a dueling raid mode lightsaber battle, and this time it's gonna yield kills on both sides, but XCal able to get one leg up, and now with the sound barrier as well, that goes firmly the way of Boston's Finest. And we are in one fight territory now for Solstice.
That was a huge fight to win for Boston's Finest with very minimal investment from them. They managed to hold off Solstice, who used quite a few more ultimates, I believe, than they did. They do still have the Deadeye, Shatter, and the Diva Bomb to work with. Also, yeah, it looks like the Death Block's coming up soon, too. Today really needs to come through on this Shatter, as right now that's really all Solstice has to work with.
The Deadeye will come in from Snarl, but is it going to come out quick enough? Today is down! The Shatter nowhere to be found! Self-destruct thrown as well! Infected just has a free swinging gallery! Snarl, though, and Lambent combined for a couple of kills. Is it going to be enough, though, because the respawn advantage so big? Infernal gets a couple of kills. Joey trying to get the point with that sound barrier, but just can't quite make it.
Today, going down early was the death sentence there from Solstice. They really needed to, if not get a kill off of the Shatter, at least find an opening, push Boston's Finest back with the threat of the Shatter at the very least, but losing your main tank, and what was your only main tank, as Hune had swapped over onto the Diva at that point, that is brutal to try and come back from, especially with all the ultimates that Boston's Finest had available to them. So, this is now where Solstice will rest their Open Division lives 2 points and 68.17 meters into King's Row, stopping just short of the end. I'm curious, now that they're on the defense, are they going to continue to play this Bulldozer composition, or are they going to go for something a little more traditional? No, it is still going to be the Bulldozer coming out of Solstice. So once again, this is a very non-traditional composition that Boston's Finest are going to have to try and figure out how to play around.
I'm honestly worried about this pick on defense, to be quite honest, Dividing.
Yeah.
I think it works very well on offense, but again, this composition, it thrives on speed. It thrives on getting initial pick and then just snowballing that advantage as fast as you can. Lambent and Snout, they have to be able to follow up on the just tremendous amount of cleave that's going to come in from Today and Hyun. But if that initial cleave and initial engagement doesn't yield a kill, then the sustain of Boston's Finest is just going to come take things away and win the day.
Yeah, this is all going to be about, once again, tempo, going all the way back to our first map of Ilios. Can Solstice take the tempo for themselves, even as the defending team here? Are they going to be able to jump on top of Boston's Finest before they're ready? Because I think that's the only way they're going to be able to consistently win with this matchup.
They take a very quick rotation through Hotel, and already it has yielded results. It's now able to take Infected out of the fight. Infernal has been demeched. Today, able to finish them off. Depresso does find Lambent, though, so even though it looks like Solstice is winning this fight, there is room for them to come back into it, and the picks aren't coming as quick as they need to for Solstice to be able to take the rest of this win. Boston's Finest got to be able to recruit faster than Solstice, and that might be the death knell of them right there with this Blizzard.
Yeah, the Blizzard comes out from Depresso, but Solstice does a pretty good job of going out of the way. But there just isn't enough players left on the point to be able to do anything about it. Boston's Finest, they are going to take control of point A, almost certainly. Solstice are just going to try and set up here on point B, and they didn't even have to use either of their support ults to secure it. Deb and Andy can now use that aggressively if they want to, as well as Infective and Infernal, who are both very close to those tank ultimates. On the other side, though, Solstice do have the Primal Rage, both support ultimates of their own, and the Deadeye, as Snell's going to let that go early.
Again, they need to be aggressive with this composition. The Deadeye not landing, that could be bad, but Lambent is there to follow things up onto Andy and Neb. The sound barrier there from Joey, I think, might have been the difference maker. Using it aggressively just allowed Solstice to have that sustain that they don't normally do, and that was what yielded the results here. Yeah,
so Solstice do keep things interesting here, backing Boston's Finest up into their own spawn, even finding Andy, who I think was back inside the spawn there.
Yeah.
And again, so Solstice are just going to try and hold Boston's Finest in here for as long as humanly possible. Shades of Havana coming out right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But Solstice, they're not going to give any time for Boston's Finest to breathe, and again, that's exactly how they want to play this composition. But all of that Primal Rage did right there was really buy them time, and the question is that enough? Shatter lands! That's going to be Snell and Lambent out of the fight immediately and almost in synchronization. Nice kills coming in from Boston's Finest. They're able to crack that spawn hold open, and they'll be able to get through arches and most likely up to Bookshop.
Yeah, this is now getting really worrying for Solstice because they no longer have the high ground of the arch or the high ground of just the first point to play around here. They just got to be super aggressive with their jumps and with their positioning to try and take Boston's Finest off guard, but Depresso has the Blizzard. As soon as Solstice show their hand and show where they're going to be, Depresso is going to be ready with the trigger to make sure they stay still.
I think Solstice gave them a little too much room as well. They've been able to push beyond that Bookshop, which is such a powerful hold. And in the meantime, that Blizzard does land Today and Hyun out of the fight, and without any driver for the Bulldozer, there's nothing they can do. Yeah, they try to flip the map on them, but it just doesn't work in their favor, and Boston's Finest is just able to pick them apart.
I think that might just be the game right here. Oh, wait. Yeah,
no,
that's going to be point. It's going to be point for Boston's Finest with 4 minutes on the clock to get themselves the win. That's going to be just 60 or so meters away from Boston's Finest, making it to the top 6 in Open Division. But Solstice do have a Shatter, a Death Blossom, and a Beat to make sure that doesn't happen.
I want to see this sound barrier used aggressively again. I think that's going to be the key to success here. Throw that out with the Death Blossom. See if you can get it around the defense of Infernal. Make sure that defense matrix isn't anywhere to be found. Infected starting to push in. They throw a shatter directly into the waiting shield of Today. Lambent able to take Infected out shortly thereafter. Here comes the Death Blossom as well. They don't even need to use the sound barrier. XCal will go down, as does Neb though, so things aren't necessarily over for Boston's Finest. Oh, but now they are.
All right, that was the first fight that Solstice needed to win. The first of, I would say, 3 or 4 here. Still 3 minutes on the clock here, and Boston's Finest are now going to have both DPS and both support ultimates to help them push through this one. Solstice are going to have 5 ults of their own, so this is going to be a really flashy fight overall. But Solstice have just begun to climb themselves out of the pit they find themselves in.
I think this Blizzard might be the key to things. Joey able to get the sound barrier off, though, in time. Not going to be enough to keep Snarl up, though, because Andy had that Coalescence, and that was able to get just enough damage in to maybe open things up. Hune gonna find themselves frozen, but they do have that extra primal health. Self-destruct thrown in from Infernal, gonna clear a little bit of room as well. Infected looking to see if they can push forward, but Maywall gonna say no, at least for the moment. Frenak now, with the Coalescence, able to push back on Boston's Finest and make them rethink this approach. They're gonna have to kite back, but now that they've done just that and they're healing back up, they've got the opportunity to push forward, but they don't really have any ults to do it with.
Yeah, now Boston's Finest are basically free to use the beat to go aggressive. Actually, I think they're waiting on Andy here. I think they're gonna try and layer both the beat and the Coalescence together to make just an unstoppable push of healing and damage and push this across.
They're still holding on to that sound barrier, so it looks like they don't even necessarily need that. The shatter lands! Depresso able to take the day out of the fight. Infernal able to eat Lambent's Blizzard!
Wow!
Gonna be it! Boston's Finest takes the win! And propels themselves forward into the top 6.
That was just an insane sequence of events from Boston's Finest. My goodness, from the shatter landing to the eating of the Blizzard, Boston's Finest just shoved any thoughts that Solstice had that they might have been able to hold this one and threw it right out the window. That was an insane final fight from Boston's Finest where everything just clicked, and because of that, they will move on to yet another round in the losers bracket.
Gotta give a lot of props to Solstice Gaming, though. A tremendous showing from them. Big congratulations for making it the furthest you ever have in Open Division and showing us that you are absolutely a top-tier team here in Open Division. So kudos to you, congratulations. Sorry to see you go, but the name of the game today is Boston's Finest. They showed up in a huge way and very convincingly, I think, showed us that they deserve to be in the top 6.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job today, and they 100% deserve it. I think this is the team that has the potential to go up against any team that's sitting up there in the winners or the losers bracket still at this point. This is a team that I think could really put a dent against GeForce even if they end up getting the chance.
We'll just gonna have to wait and see, though, because dividing, that's gonna do it for us here today on Open Division. Quite a few exciting games that we got to see, and Open Division is always an exciting time of the year, and as we get closer and closer to the end of it, that excitement just picks up more and more. I, for one, am so grateful that I got to spend this afternoon with you today, watching and commentating on some phenomenal Overwatch. Big thank you to you for once again being my partner in the booth, and couldn't say enough good things about Acrylic and Unfeatured as well. Our producers, they've got our back, making sure that it isn't just ASMR that we're getting from Overwatch. So thank you to both of you for doing a phenomenal job today, and the entire rest of the Monkey Bubble Reflash staff.
And of course, I think the B stream is still finishing up their losers round 11 game, but after that is over, we are going to be down to just 6 teams, the best of the best that have been weeded out from these field of over 100 that we started with. Next weekend is going to be where it all comes to a head, and we are going to get our first 2022 Open Division champions. I would never miss it. I hope you don't either. Overwatch League is on break, so you literally have no excuse. Come to Reflash Prod and watch some Open Division. from the best teams that Tier 3 has to offer.
Well, I think that's gonna do it for us here today, Dividing. Before we close things out, and I don't want to say we're definitely gonna raid the B stream, but we may still raid the B stream. I think we're gonna try to. Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah. Before we throw it to them, any final words from you, Dividing?
Had a fantastic time. Obviously, our Twitter handles are below. If you want to follow us and you liked what you saw and you haven't followed us yet, would appreciate it greatly. But yeah, this has been a fantastic day of Overwatch Open Division North America. Had a fantastic time. Of course, DokuGod, were always a pleasure to cast alongside, and I once again had a fantastic time.
All right, well, thank you all so much for tuning in. That's going to do it for us. GG's, and see you next time.